Welcome back, Martini Giant fans. This is episode number 120, a very special episode that was brought on by an idea from our good friend Erick. He was very concerned that Clint Eastwood was turning 93, and he just said, you know, we really need to celebrate him for some reason. And he felt compelled to do this. And we decided, yeah, sure, that sounds like a good idea. So just before Clint Eastwood's birthday, we decided to record this episode. So instead of actually doing 1, 2, or 3 films, we actually did something a little bit different. We're actually going to be covering 9 films that he did. And I'm not going to tell you what they are. You're going to have to discover them as we go. But yeah, there are 9 films that we decided to do. So what we did is each of us picked 3, and we went down the line. Like Erick would pick one, and then Daniel would pick one, and then I would pick one, and we'd go back and we'd go through all 9 films that we decided to talk about. And we all try to pick different ways and different ideas of how we decided to do it. So it's really kind of a discovery of which is the next film you're going to talk about from Clint Eastwood. And this is either as an actor or a director or both. So it's really kind of a cool episode. And I was really, really glad we did it because I think, you know, obviously we have a huge amount of respect for him as a filmmaker and as an actor, and I thought it was really cool that we were able to celebrate these things for him. So very excited to do that. All right, a couple things I want to do is I'm going to do a little call to action for you guys. I would love to try to get more subscribers on our YouTube. You can subscribe to us anywhere you want, but if you're subscribed to us as an audio only, you don't have to watch us on YouTube, but I would love to get your subscription. There's a little plan behind this that I'm trying to do. I just want to get my subscriber numbers up. And the best way to do that is just to go to youtube.com/@MartiniGiant. And just hit the subscribe button. And if you like this video, hit like as well. That would be great too. But love to have you as a subscriber on the channel, and encourage anyone else that you know that may want to do that. They'd love to have that. Speaking of which, we do record all of these podcasts on Twitch, and that is at twitch.tv/Martini_Giant. And those streams usually happen on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so adjust for your time zone. And we will be doing one this Saturday as well. Very excited about this one. My daughter decided that she wanted to introduce me to a new film that she had heard about, which is a Belgian film from 2015 that I have never heard about. In fact, neither Daniel or Erick or I ever heard about it. And it's called The Brand New Testament. A really, really interesting film. I did happen to watch it recently with her. I'm very excited to talk about it. And then we decided with her, like, which one would be a good pairing for this. And she decided on Amelie, and I totally agree. Amelie was a great pairing. So love to have you there to talk about Amelie and The Brand New Testament. One's a Belgian film, one's a French film, but they're both spoken in French, and really excited to do that. All right, so hopefully we can see you there this Saturday. That's going to be June 17th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on twitch.tv/Martini_Giant. But for now, please enjoy our Clint Eastwood celebration episode. Today we are going to be celebrating several movies by Mr. Clint Eastwood, and decided to do it a little bit differently. Normally we do 1 film, 2 films, sometimes we do 3 films. But instead we're actually going to do 9 films.
Yeah, because this guy makes a lot of movies. He makes a lot of movies.
This guy makes a lot of movies, as you said, and we're going to check out all kinds of movies as well.
Yeah.
So we're going to definitely check that out. So the whole point is that we want to look at these 3 different movies, and I figured what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to do an order of movies, and each one of us is going to pick one of those movies, and we're going to go and talk about each one of them, and then you know, we'll start with Erick, then we'll go to Daniel, then we'll go to me, and that will be round 1, and then we go back to Erick for a second movie, and then a third movie, etc. So how does that sound to everyone?
Sounds good here.
Sounds good, Erick?
You got it.
It's a Josie Wales Christmas. That's right.
It is. So we didn't tell you guys what our pick was, right? We decided we were going to hold off on that. And so I said, okay, let's start with that. So Erick, tell me, what is your first film that you picked?
Well, I picked 3 films, as you
Well,
know.
yeah, I know, but what's the first one? We're just going to
Only
talk
the
about
first
the
one.
first
Only
one.
the first
Not everything all at once. Just the first one. What's the first one?
It is called A Perfect World.
A Perfect World. Okay, tell us a little bit about it. Perfect World.
Perfect World is a film I remember seeing. The last time I saw it was in the theaters in New York City. I think I was with Carlos Scialla and maybe Jim Mull, but I remember seeing that. I love that film. On second viewing, I feel like it is really a tour de force for Kevin Costner.
It's one
really
of his very, very, very best performances.
I love No Way Out. I love Costner at that era, late 80s and 90s. And he is just, it's really his film. The stuff between him and Lloyd, basically, he's an escaped convict. And as he escapes, and it's a real kind of interesting, how it's almost like the feel of the textural feel visually reminds me a lot of Shawshank Redemption, where it's the early 90s art direction that is, or Field of Dreams, this kind of retro look of that time period. And
He was shooting with Jack Green at that time, I think. It was the DP. Yeah.
Okay. So it is definitely has a style, and I like the film. I think Costner's really unbelievable upon the viewing. But the thing is, he escapes with this other guy. They end up at a house, and there is a boy who has no father but lives with his mother, and she's a born-again Christian, or she's a...
When was this made?
91? 92?
91?
93, around there.
Right.
And it is... So basically, he ends up kidnapping the boy to get out, and he's a dangerous man, Kevin Costner. He ends up killing the guy that he escaped with because they don't get along. But he develops this fatherly relationship with the boy, who is probably 8, 9 years old. He's really a great actor, sweet. And it really is such a great... he's a killer, but he had the same type of relationship with his father that the boy does and he hasn't seen his father in years. And it's almost, I'll be honest, it's like Paper Moon in a way, but he's kidnapped, but it's still that kind of heartfelt parenting and understanding human nature behind, how the parents affect you. It really is because basically he didn't come from a great home, and this boy obviously misses his father and doesn't come from a great home and a strict mother. So he starts to enjoy the ride because he's almost like a surrogate father to him. And they go on these little journeys. I'll be honest, they structure it like the Kevin Costner part, kidnapping the boy and developing this relationship, and it really is a strong thread. Mm-hmm. But they also kind of set it up where Laura Dern, I always love Laura Dern, she plays somebody brought in by the mayor, the governor of Texas. It takes place in Texas in the 60s. And to work with Clint Eastwood, who's a top cop investigator, and they take this kind of Silver Line, Winnebago type thing, and they go on this hunt for Kevin Costner and the partner. And so there's a lot of this back and forth. Women can't do it. And she's in the boys' room, obviously, in a sense, like it's all male cops, and she's an investigator, but she's female. But it's not really a strong thread. It's kind of just a little cliche. And
it's just weird comedy, and like it's totally different.
It's totally different. Yeah. And so the real thing is they do it as though it's almost like they're going through the motions, where they're hunting him down, and everybody that's around Laura Dern, who was assigned by the governor to be with these investigators, they're all just kind of the old boys' room, the locker room talk, and Clint Eastwood seems frustrated, but honestly, there is no bond, even though you can kind of see Clint Eastwood and Laura Dern are start to respect each other. There is no connection or spark. And it should have really just been cut as a Clint Eastwood hunting him down. He didn't need to have the Laura Dern part. in order to counterbalance.
Right.
It could have just been him and his expressions and the way he commands himself. He could have just held that line, actually, and it would have been a great seesaw balance to Costner as a solo as well.
Right.
But it just broke that film apart. But if you just recut it with just Costner and Clint Eastwood scenes and get out, not anything wrong with Laura Dern. It just seems unnecessary because there's such a half, 3/4 of the movie, or the percentage of the movie, The Boys with Costner, and this road movie of him escaping with the boy, and ultimately the boy ends up shooting him.
Yeah.
Because he threatened to kill somebody.
And that is extraordinary stuff.
Yes.
Like that entire story is like, it's almost impossible to break the quality of that story, no matter how lopsided.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is lopsided.
Yeah.
But that he shoots him because he was going to kill, almost sadistically, this guy in front of his children. And the little boy shoots Costner, and they end up holding hands in a field as Costner's dying. Mm-hmm. And ultimately the cops shoot him, but he hugs him, and he goes back to them to hug, to everybody's surprise, where he's negotiating a release of the boy because he was holding him hostage in this beautiful field. And it's really, really a beautiful, touching love the boy has for him, because he's like a real father. He taught him things on the road.
Right.
About life and what to do, and made him feel confident, and it made him feel loved. And there is a bond, and always that message with Eastwood. He was political spectrum. He's on a different side. Pardon me. But even with his political spectrum, he's talking about the value of parenting and parents, and the value of a father figure in one's life. Mm-hmm. And it is such a strong performance. And Costner is a great American actor. That is, I feel like, his strongest period for him. And he's just confident, and he's great, and he's so intense. But he's very much like a Clint Eastwood. He just has this, the way charismatic, bravado, but intelligent and sympathetic. He's just really covers a huge spectrum. It's a really hard role to do. I can't think of any actor, possibly I was thinking, that could do it. It would be a different dynamic, but Gene Hackman could have done it, as somebody who would left.
Oh, yeah, like young Hackman, like 35.
Or even older. It's almost like he becomes like a grandfather to the boy.
Right.
But you'd have to write dialogue more of like a grandfather talking to the son instead of like a young father talking to the son, which is different nuance. But it definitely is a strong, strong, strong film. And it's such a great performance, and you end up crying at the end because he's hugging him, and he's got a bullet in his gut that the boy shot, and they're grabbing hands and holding on to each other, and then he passes. And it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful storyline. And it's a weird contrast between the Clint Eastwood sections and Costner, and it gets a little goofy comedy.
I wonder what was like, why did he choose to do that? Because it's a really distinct...
I actually think it's probably the studio.
Mm-hmm. Like, to get the money. He just won for Unforgiven. Do they really need him to be in the movie also? Like,
no, but he could have been in the movie.
Do you mean in terms of Eastwood being in the film?
No, I feel like he should have been in the film, but he should not have had this kind of build-up of the character with Laura Dern, because she is a great performer, but it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't counterbalance. I think a better counterbalance would just be him, who is, hunting him down, and he realizes that at the end he's really sympathetic towards him, but he's so overshadowed by the kind of there was a lot of like goofy moments in the trailer. It gets unhitched, and there's always these hijinks that happen on the pursuit of him, and then you cut back to Costner, and it's serious, beautiful drama. So it's weird. But if they took some of that out, I think I don't know why it was overcast. And by the way, the dialogue and the writing for the sections that that is in the trailer as they're pursuing Kevin Costner and the boy is really weak. It's just kind of cliche.
It's like a totally different movie.
It's a totally different movie.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back to really beautiful dialogue between the boy, and great performance by the boy for being that age and performing like that.
It's insane. Yeah.
But then it cuts back to, we got to solve this murder, and I got a fake Southern accent. And all these little sidekicks with skinny black ties. It's like, and this guy's going, I'm just going to shoot him.
This is sort of a great,
okay.
This is sort of a great movie to open with on this retrospective, right? It's because it really shows, this is like all of Eastwood's movies sort of fall into these two camps, right? Like there's the like virtually perfect Academy Award winning, incredible stuff. And there's plenty of good, very, very good movies. Like most of his movies are very good movies. But then he has this, he just has these weird, clunky, shticky things that sort of pepper his filmography, where it just doesn't, it's like what was it, Blood Work? And where you're just like, what drew you to this?
Also, there's one on HBO Max right now called with... God, I've lost my mind. Emilio Estevez's brother.
Eric, we should note that it's no longer called HBO Max.
It's called
Max.
Max now.
Max, yes.
Like Maxi.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God,
it has become a nightmare, and the tech, and it's kind of crazy. Like you would assume it's like, okay, we're going to change the name, right? Sorry, I'm just going on a little technical rant here, but we're going to change the name from this to this. But what you're actually doing is they literally killed the old app, and you have to install a new app.
Yes,
and that new app is broken. It's
so good, so classic.
And it's just ridiculous. And so they're doing this, and this is the other thing I was talking about on the Vergecast. Like they're doing this right before the season finale of Succession.
I know.
Where you have to just basically screw up all of your devices. And if you use Apple TV, it's apparently even worse of an experience.
That's what I'm...
What a hack job, dude. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
So it's just Max now.
But yeah, the one you're talking about is The Rookie.
The Rookie.
Yeah.
I was about to look it up. Yep. But the best one, the contrast between really good performance and then moments of this doesn't balance well, is the last I could think of besides this is American Sniper.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh,
that's another
interesting.
one. That's another because that's another one where I don't know if that's on anybody's list. It's not on my list, but it's the American. I really think that's a beautiful movie with these really bizarre hiccups in it that keep it from being great. And I'm not sure. No, Eastwood himself. And by the way, this is not going to be a hammer on Eastwood talk. He is an absolute filmmaking hero of mine, and there's not a movie of his, even the corny ones, that I don't enjoy. I just like watching him. I like what he does, and even movies he made that aren't that great, I still love those. But he is known for his work ethic, right? Which is efficiency.
I mean, that's which he learned from being in the spaghetti westerns, right?
Yeah, and doing a lot of TV and Rawhide and whatever, and he is much more concerned about treating this like a job, being polite and everyone works together. They go home at 5 or go home at 7 or whatever it is, and it's a job, so that's it. And so in some cases, so he'll do 1 or 2 takes.
He's also famous for his first takes. He does, people yep, done. It's wait,
done. That's
what?
fine. There we go. And and so he's perfectly okay with things being, it's fine. I mean, it's if it's a B character story, is the guy doesn't have to be perfect. It's just the B story. And so because he has the when he's working with the leads, he casts incredibly well, and he really knows how to direct actors. Because
that's what he does really well.
And he's the subtleties that he draws out of even seasoned pros, like Costner. It's just stuff you've never seen Costner do. You're just this. It's just incredible the work he does in that thing. And there's no there's no sort of showiness to his performance in that. You know.
Well, let's do this because I think this is great because this is what I want to do a little bit different than we normally do on our show. So I want to ask
Talk about
questions,
movies?
like a couple of things.
Oh.
Well, Eric, so first of all, you mentioned specifically the performance of Costner in this as being like really, really good and very, very interesting. So do you think that performance comes from working with Eastwood, or do you think that comes from being Costner, or do you
I think it
that's
comes
because
from
he
being
picked
Costner. I think Costner at that time was a machine. No Way Out at around
it's
that time. Field
yeah.
of Dreams, and I think it's really
Dances
that's
with
what it.
Wolves and all that stuff?
Yeah,
He was on fire.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right,
But-
he was on fire. What
and he did
stopped
it
that?
because he has a respect for Eastwood. Who doesn't want to be in an Eastwood film? So
Right.
you know,
Do you think the Waterworld was the where everything started to
That was
go
a big
down?
that was a big crash for him, sure.
yeah.
Postman that was the big failure for him.
Remember, he also did My Bodyguard or whatever the.
Yep. That was a big giant hit.
Right.
And that, for a cheesy movie, it's a pretty good chase.
Bodyguard was okay, but he was doing.
The Bodyguard.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about. He kind of did a little bit of a Ben Affleck when Ben Affleck did Armageddon to try to get the big bucks, right? And so I think Kevin Costner is like, I'm going to do Bodyguard, I'm going to do Waterworld, and
Yeah, and he's just not built for that stuff. Like that's like he's
Well,
he's more
guys,
like a
around that. Look, around that time, you remember Dennis Hopper's in Waterworld, so there probably was a lot of money dangling. But
Yeah.
there were a lot of films like that around. Remember the Batman
Yeah.
movies were growing.
big shticky
Yeah.
Hollywood nonsense. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also the bus one.
that's a
Speed.
good movie.
Good movie.
That's a
I
good
know,
movie.
but the
I would-
movies were of that tone. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
Like
they
these
were. They were.
very Hollywoody.
Very
shot
silly
kind of-
Hollywood. Very fluffy Hollywood. You know, like that. Like, it's not that they're not fun. Speed's a really good fun movie, but it's not like
this was early 90s, right? Early 90s, as we're coming out of the 80s, we're coming out of the John Hughes Breakfast Club type
Right.
of movies, right? And that kind of stuff.
Right.
So we're like, but there was some good stuff that was happening around that time. I mean, this was the time of, Tootsie and all this other stuff, which we mentioned before. Like this is kind of like an important part, right?
Well, and I feel like the Eric, you're like it's like he is coming, like they're both coming off of big Western wins, Unforgiven, right, and Dances with Wolves.
Western wins?
Western wins. So like
God,
these two guys
tonight on Western
on
Wins.
Western wins.
I'm
like-
just back to Pine Valley. I want to know who he is.
And I can imagine, like you're saying, like Costner's like, this is, for me to work with this guy is a career capper, Like,
Yeah, I mean, especially in the fact that he's like the king of Westerns, right?
king of Westerns. Exactly. And so Perfect World isn't a Western, but like he is going into it as open to being directed by a master as you could possibly be. Like he knows what he's doing and choosing to work with Eastwood for that role.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like because my other favorite, I think my favorite performance by Costner ever is Open Range, but that's when he's more seasoned.
I
like,
love No Way Out.
No Way Out's great. That's it, and that's a good young man's role. Like he's sexy, he's fun, it's fast, it's intense, and he really carries it. And he's got like the superstar energy going on in that. By the time he gets to Waterworld, though, like he's not. Like he needs, like Waterworld needs to be someone like Kurt Russell that handles big silly nonsense.
And he's better with water.
And he's better with water. Overboard.
Yeah, like big Trouble in Little China kind of guy, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's
Right.
a big nonsense guy, and he does it in Tango and Cash. That kind of jazz.
So as I promised that we would all have lunch with Dawn at some point, and she has some Waterworld stories that can only be told. That can only be told
with no microphones.
with no microphones attached, right? But yeah, you can't. Those are also non-repeatable stories, apparently. So
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that.
okay, but I do want to know, Eric, because here's the thing. Another thing, the rule is we're giving about 20 minutes to each story to go through to get to the next one. But before we move on to the next movie, Eric, why, besides, what was the thing that motivated you? Is like, okay, this is a movie that I want to, celebrate Eastwood with.
For me, I love a lot of smaller films, but with small films cast in some sort of majestic way. I'm not majestic, but I love the Americana stories. Thunderbolt and Lightfoot is the same way, and play Misty. They're a small cast, strong characters, and they unfold a lot of human emotions and a lot of things that you don't normally see in, say, like a Rollerball. But the point is, I like those type of movies of his. So for me, the movies I picked are smaller films, in a sense, smaller locations, and unusual. Like Play Misty is unusual and powerful.
Right. Well, we'll get
Perfect
to
World
that
is
because remember we were
unusual
going to
and
do
powerful.
one at a time.
And I know, Chris, I'm just rambling here. So, but basically, I liked the performances, and it just was bittersweet, particularly between the boy. And I thought I always remembered that. I always loved the way Costner, the relationship, and how heartbreaking it was.
Now we should note that
You forgot he was a criminal.
We should note that this was directed by Eastwood, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the thing I think that's important. And what I really like about this is includes Eastwood and also directed by Eastwood. So you get both of his strengths in a sense, right? So I think that's what I think is really good about this pick, especially as our first pick, is that it sort of celebrates Eastwood's and he's again, the thing that's I think is special about Eastwood is he likes to do this thing where he does a small film. He's like, just give me this much money. I'm going to be on my way, and I'll be back with a film and guarantee you'll make your money back, right?
Right, exactly.
And so he does that really well. And so I think the studios are like, he just has carte blanche, and he's never going to ask for $100 million.
Yeah.
It's always going to be 50 million
he
or less.
He turns in everything on time and under budget, no matter what he does. Like, I don't think he's ever been over budget on anything. And so like he has a bomb here, bomb there, whatever it is. Like, his overall catalog makes the studios millions of dollars every year, period. Like, just the stuff that exists that he's done. And so like he is a infinite cash machine for them, and they're perfectly happy to support whatever he wants. Like, he has worked with the studios to develop a business together, as opposed to being a star and like, you have to service me and all this kind of stuff. He's just like, nope, this is like a TV show. It's the Clint Eastwood show, and we're just going to be in business, and that's how it works. And I think that it leads to it leads to him being able to cast big people in small movies, which you really don't get very much of anymore.
Yes, that's very true. You maybe get one star.
Yeah.
Like one person, and everyone else is. But I do want to go through a couple more, all right. So that was a great first movie. And Daniel, what is your pick for your first Eastwood film?
Now, I won't disclose all of my picks. I'm just going to talk about one right up front, but I was
was I not supposed to do that?
So I wanted to sort of set up the reason why I picked what I'm picking isn't because these are my favorite Eastwood films, but rather because they're really examples of his range as an actor and director, and also like
I went through the similar thing, but also through like genres, kind of ideas. But go ahead, it's about the versatility, right?
It's the versatility angle, right? And especially like in terms of like getting to a core thread of his own beliefs through all this stuff that he does, like a huge range of material, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is talk about a big movie, like a very large scale movie that he did, which is actually sort of a bookend to another film that he did. But this is Letters from Iwo Jima. And
I think I worked on that film.
That movie, what was it all about, and where did it come from?
And so Letters is actually a part of anyone who worked at Digital Domain. Letters was a part of their life as well. And because like Dee Dee was a big part of making that movie happen, and visual effect, and Flags of Our Fathers.
Yeah,
which
that's
is
the one I worked on.
That's the sister movie to this one. Now, like I'll quickly mention Flags. Flags is a good movie. Like Flags suffers from a lot of what you were talking about, Eric, where it's like parts are great, parts are not great. where it's sort of like it wonks all around, and when it's great, it's amazingly good. And when it's just sort of gets long or clumsy, or like some of the actors aren't pulling it together. So it's kind of a wobbly but good movie. Letters from Iwo Jima is a great movie. Like, this is a real unique work of art for America to have made. And because it's like Flags of Our Fathers is about the soldiers that raised the flag on Iwo Jima, and it's the classic shot of the American flag and the pole, and all the guys are lifting.
There's this big statue of it.
Big statue of this
right.
thing.
So,
and it's an examination of the fact that this is a PR stunt, right? Yeah. And it's a totally constructed moment that they sort of did and redid and posed and all this kind of jazz. And he looks at the effects of, the sort of falseness of that on the people whose lives were involved in doing it, because they were made quite famous for doing it, and they're basically telling a lie in doing so. So it's a powerful story. It's a little wobbly, as I said, as a movie, but like, it's a very empathic story that essentially sketches the paradox of America and feelings about America, because, like, as you brought up, Eric, like, America versus Americana, and the sort of the politics of it and all this stuff, and it really gets to the heart of what. Because as you brought up, Eric, Eastwood is a conservative. He's a Republican. He served as mayor of Carmel, California, and all this stuff. He's not a Republican in the way that I see Republicans today.
Like Republicans today. Those are
Republicans
very
today.
different.
Not like a Chris Republican.
No.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Not a Trump DeSantian, which are not even Republicans.
China.
They have. I do not understand how people can call themselves Republican and vote for Trump. I'm not a Republican, but like it's everything that they do not believe in wrapped up in one thing, and they
pretend that it's not true.
They pretend that there's no dissonance here.
Ronald Reagan would be very excited about.
Donald Trump.
Ronald Reagan is rolling in his grave right now.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like, I am 0% a Reagan fan. Like, I don't have any. Like, I have nothing good to say.
I agree with you. But anyway, it is fair to say that we should note that Eastwood has a history as a Republican politician.
And so when like as a conservative guy, like he's from a conservative point of view, that though I disagreed with it largely politically, I still respected. I'm just like, I get where you're coming from. I understand I do understand what you're talking about. And basically, like, it's a different side of the same point that I feel, right? And it's just like that you can have a conversation with someone like this and not end up yelling at each other. And so with Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima, it's a really, like, that he was willing to, like, if it were, the Trump version of Flags of Our Fathers, like, it would be how amazing these boys were, and this giant bullshit story that endorsed the lie, like, that said there was no lie, it all happened spontaneously, we just happened to have a photographer there. Like, he would say there was no bullshit, it's all true. America is supernaturally beautiful and amazing. And Clint is like, that's not true. Like America is
complex.
It's a complex, like any country, is a very complex feeling. Like, because there's the truth of what you believe in about how people should live together and trust one another and support each other. And then there's this sort of like the myth that represents that concept. And sometimes we get mixed up on which one is which, and it can be really disastrous for us, And so, though I think that Flags is not a complete success, I really admire that he was taking not a cynical, but a very, like, appropriately empathic view to the reality of feelings that he has for his own country. And what was done, and then he seals the deal by making an entire other movie called Letters from Iwo Jima.
But wasn't he planning to do that the whole
It's
time?
the whole time. The whole thing
So
is
he
like,
knew that. So right, he
Yes.
had to tell the story is like, here's the lie and here's why it's a lie, right?
right. And then he tells, and then with Letters from Iwo Jima, he makes a brilliant, complex, powerful anti-war film from the point of view of the Japanese soldiers on Iwo Jima, who all got killed, like all of them. And the movie is entirely in Japanese, and it's solely their experience based on actual letters that were found on the bodies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it is such a deep, real read as to like the same things. Like how can we act the way we feel when it's in contradiction to our actual morals? How do we treat each other? How do we treat each other as soldiers under this kind of pressure and all this kind of stuff? And so he has the same empathic, broad view of the enemy, of the folks from Flags of Our Fathers. And because he's bringing nothing but empathy to it, it creates this unbelievably rich, sad experience where nobody who has gone through this heartbreaking event wanted this to be happening at all. And so it becomes this massive, epic tragedy about belief in one's own country and in each other and ourselves, and how we're destroying each other out of this. And it's phenomenal. So I would say, like, see flags. It's important to see flags, but absolutely see letters. Like, letters is the punchline. And I can't imagine a Trump Republican today saying, I want to make a movie about the Japanese viewpoint of this war. Like, it would...
A Republican
Yeah. Like,
is a really interesting thing.
It's-
Because it
it's-
feels anti-war. But what he's doing is like, we just need to pay attention to this. So there's
Yeah.
a respect I have for him.
Yeah,
in that
exactly.
sense.
Like, this is it's a like these are humans. Everyone involved in this is a human, and every one of us deserves love and deserves life, and nobody wants to be here, and everyone knows this is a terrible experience. Like, there's no good guys or bad guys in these two movies put together at all. There are enemies, but there are not villains. And it's an extraordinarily empathetic vision of an extremely complex subject that I don't know if any other director has handled as well and as fully as he did. And I think it's a greatly underappreciated movie. And I also like in terms of the filmmaking, it's not grandstanding at all. As big as and as grand as it is, as big as the scale is, like, it's not grandstanding at all. It is simple and straightforward. It almost just sort of like there's nothing like big, beautiful moment where the director is sort of like, look at my directoriness. It's just reportage. Like, here it is. And he gives, and this is going to come up a lot. He gives the entire movie to the actors. Like, it's not about how fancy Clint is. It's not about what a brilliant director he is. It's not about like a big statement that he wants to make. Like, it's just about shooting these people having complex, subtle moments in extremely high contrast, violent situations. And it's so beautifully observed, and he gives so much time to everybody that it's impossible not to be moved. It's unlike any other movie I've ever seen in the war film genre. Like, this is one of the very best, and I think that it shows that he is not just like everyone. Like, people like to sort of blow him off now. It's just like, oh, he's a Republican, so and I hate all of his films. I never watch him. And plays with all this kind of stuff. They'll just throw him away, and we should be thankful that at one time a Republican like Clint Eastwood existed before we deal with what we have now.
First of all, because someone is a Republican doesn't mean they're a bad person.
I agree.
Doesn't mean that.
I agree.
Right? And I think that the problem is that that we have been told that.
Right.
And that's what and the fact that we were like, And the same on the other side, right?
Yeah,
Because the Republicans are like, all we want to do is make the Democrats cry. Like that's their goal.
That's the goal now, and vice versa.
And so oh no, we want to make the Republicans angry. They want to make us cry.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's the goal. I'm
Like
sorry, because I'm not a necessary pro.
Right.
But that's not what he's doing. He's actually telling us two stories. Right.
Yes.
With flags, he's telling us this thing is like, oh, by the way, we may have been this is all kind of BS.
Right.
Even though there's a freaking statue of it in Washington, D.C., it's all BS. Right. And he knows that, and he's like, but this, and he's not necessarily giving we've seen his films, right? He's not a hippie about war. Right?
Not at all.
He's definitely a hawk, right? Yeah. So the fact is, I think that it's very interesting to see that he made this film and sort of acknowledged the fact that, hey, a lot of people suffered, and we kind of.
Well,
I think it was also commentary on media.
Oh yeah, like
100%.
With flags.
This is the first
absolutely.
anti-Facebook film.
Yeah, like flags. Actually, this is going to come up a lot in a couple of in some other circumstances that films have chosen. So but certainly flags has a lot of anti-media material in it, and you can see in letters like the effect of media, essentially media/state control in that case, but of media manipulation of people's opinions as people show up, like characters show up who have a very definite idea of like what their purpose in war is, right? And then by the end of it, they're broken. Like their view is destroyed, and everything that they were sold by the government is hogwash, and that Eastwood is so committed to the humanness of this experience as opposed to good guys, bad guys, to Japanese Americans, whatever it is. Like he's just like, this doesn't matter. Like we are all reacting the same way. Like I think it's like he is seen as like a like he's hawkish in the way of like, if there's something to be done, he believes it should be confronted immediately rather than dawdling it away. Right. But he doesn't he doesn't have the idea of just like, let's go kill the blank. Like this is the opposite of that, because he's like, well, the blank, in this case, the Japanese, are humans, and like you're going to see them dying by the thousands in this film, and you're going to get to know them and feel terrible that this is happening. And then you're going to see the other side where they're happy that happened. Like that's your side. And that's the appropriate, intelligent, adult way to look at the scene, and that's something that we've very much lost the ability to do right now. Like if you were to if you did a flags, letters version of Republicans, Democrats, like I can't imagine anyone agreeing with that movie. Like everyone would be mad that the other side got perceived as a human. And I feel like this is
to be a villain or hero, right?
Yeah, everyone wants to be the hero and wants to make the other people cartoons.
The villains, right?
Right.
Okay.
We don't need another hero.
We don't need another hero. Oh my God, that's I miss her
Tina.
already.
Yeah, Tina.
That's a very good quote, Eric. Thanks for throwing that in there, and our love for Tina Turner. I do want to get to. Okay, so I'm going to go to my pick, which is also a war film, which is Kelly's Heroes.
Yeah, Kelly's Heroes.
And I figured that was an interesting thing, because this is, I think Kelly's Heroes is probably, of all four of our picks, is probably the earliest.
That's true. Yep.
Right, and I would have picked The Good and the Bad and the Ugly as the obvious choice, but I picked Kelly's Heroes because we already did Good and Bad and the Ugly, and also because I think we need to talk about heist films and World War II films and all those other, like The Great Escape and all that other kind of stuff that he was doing back then, right? He was doing these kind of things. And so I hadn't seen Kelly's Heroes in probably 20 years or whatever. It's a fun film.
Oh yeah, that's a blast, man. And what's it got? Sutherland in it?
It's got everyone in it.
Everybody in it.
Donald Sutherland,
Gavin McLeod.
Gavin McLeod.
Carol O'Connor, Don
Carol
Rickles.
O'Connor. Yeah.
Don Rickles, the guy who plays Uncle Leo from Seinfeld.
Yeah, right.
John Landis is in it.
John Landis.
Savannah. Well,
Uncredited, though.
Everyone's in it. Like the amount of people in this film, everyone's in it. And this was the classic, it's a mad world kind of time, right? That they were doing these type of crazy cameos.
Right. Harry Dean Stanton.
Harry Dean Stanton. Oh my God, Harry Dean Stanton is the comic relief in this film, which is hilarious.
It. Harry Dean. Who can't love Harry Dean? That's insane.
Yeah,
that's insane.
So, the thing that's cool about this film, obviously, it's a World War II film, right? Mm-hmm. And it's at the end of the invasion, right? And the Germans are kind of retreating. Just giving a quick setup for what it is.
Sure.
Germans are retreating. Clint Eastwood captures a German officer and gets him drunk enough to reveal that there are huge amount of gold in a small town that they can get to. Right. And so he organizes everyone to basically do a bank heist. The soldiers to motivate them because they're just kind of screwed. And they all hate the officers. They're like, we've been in this war too long. It was like, we need to get something out of this. And so they decided they're going to start, doing this kind of thing where they're, going to basically try to rob a bank of a bunch of gold. And they did calculations on how much gold it is, and it's something like $14 million worth of gold, which, of course, in World War II is a massive amount of money.
Yeah.
And they try to pull off this heist. So that's basically what it is. They go through all kinds of stuff that's going on. The plot takes itself on its way. There's a couple things I want to note. Having seen this film again for the first, recently, holy crap. The amount of pyrotechnics in this movie,
huge.
So fun.
The whole movie is on fire constantly.
Yeah, it's insane.
They are blowing up everything. It makes a stealth look like child's play.
Oh yeah, and they were real explosions.
They were really blowing up buildings.
Yeah. It's so fun. And the thing is, like, this period, right? There's this is the period where explosions really are a star unto themselves. Right?
They make great posters.
Right, because explosions in the 80s also become a star unto themselves. Or helicopters in the late 70s, motorcycles in the early 70s, where you just see that's all you see in the ad. And this is a top 10 explosion movie. nonstop.
When it came out, but it is one of those kind of great World War II films, right? The ones that oh God, I'm name blanking. The ones where they all escape from prison.
There's The Great Escape, right?
Great Escape,
there's
Bridge Too Far.
Bridge Too Far.
Guns of Navarone.
Bridge of the River Kwai. Guns of Navarone. Where Eagles Dare. Which is directed by the same guy who directed Kelly's Heroes, as a matter of fact.
Right.
It was the year before. And it's World War II adventure films were were really legit for quite some time. And
they were my favorite as a kid.
Oh my God, so much fun.
And the fact that they're very playful.
Yeah.
Right?
It's everyone.
They're not taking themselves too seriously.
Right.
And I think that's kind of the thing that I kind of like. You guys know sometimes I just like some relief movies. I'm not trying to say that I just, I want fluff movies. You guys know how I love some very serious movies. But
right. But you want a wide palette, you want to be able to
I
enjoy
want a little
this.
bit of everything. And this one was kind of oh my God. And I just watched it again recently and I was like, this is these are bombs going off everywhere.
It's amazing.
There's just craziness. It feels like if they did this today, this film would be $150 million, $200 million.
Oh, sure.
Film.
And I think it would be shocking to see so many real explosions. I think we're so used to CG explosion, we don't even know what they real explosions
Well,
look
when
like
you
anymore.
start to see those buildings collapse
Yeah.
under the explosion with all the rocks falling down.
Yeah, that's real. That's not
That's
Fast and
real.
the
I
Furious.
feel covered that was this. I love this film because I love war films. Pardon me. But there was a Brad Pitt movie from 10 years ago where he's a tank commander.
Oh yeah, Fury.
Great
Yeah.
explosions, great tank battles.
Intense,
That
yeah.
that's reminiscent of the 70s stuff.
Yep,
That's
very
the
much so.
closest thing.
We
It's hard
talked
to do.
about doing that film, actually. You brought it up, and it's been on my list, so it's still on the list there.
I think you'd get a kick out of Fury. Fury's good. Fury's good. Very
Yeah.
very interesting movie.
Have you seen it, Chris?
I haven't seen Fury.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
But
interesting.
I mean, if you know, yeah.
But yeah, like I think that there's something to like I do have a question. Like, let's see. So that's 1970. Like
Oh,
there's
Telly Savalas is also a big
Telly
part of it.
Savalas, obviously.
Telly.
But like for the longest time post World War II, it was completely appropriate to treat World War II as a subject for adventure film. Like,
Yeah.
like it didn't have to be like grim, serious, heavy. Yeah, like it's silly,
Film.
it's fun, you know, all this stuff to the point where like they even had on TV, people will remember, Hogan's Heroes, which
Yeah.
is a concentration camp show
I know.
where the prisoners of
that.
war
That's
as,
really what it
as a
is.
sitcom, as a single
Imagine
camera
pitching
sitcom.
that.
Right.
Jesus.
And so
Yeah,
like
but, I mean, and there was by the way, there was a movie about that called Autofocus, right?
autofocus, yes,
Oh,
a great little movie. Great
That
little
movie
movie.
is
love that film.
one of the hardest movies to
Oh,
watch.
it's great performance by Greg Kinnear. He is terrific in it, and
Willem Dafoe,
he is like so.
Tom Hanks' wife.
It's like it's great. It's just great. And is that Schrader did that? I can't remember. It was someone like that.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like it's such a weird, upsetting little, funny, weird film.
Well, the problem about it is that it's based on that character, right?
Yep.
And it's funny, and everything's funny, and then suddenly it's like, this is a very dark side
It's
of the funny.
Very serious.
And it's
so,
based
yeah.
on
True
reality
story.
too, right?
Right.
It's a
It's
true story. Yeah.
And so like there's a certain like I guess it almost hooks to Flags Over Fathers, and like the propaganda during World War II of it being, you know, good guys versus bad guys, etc., so hardcore that we didn't really get to approach that topic with any sense of reality, you know, until much later, much like decades and decades later. And so it's still up until the 70s, it's seen as a perfectly appropriate sort of rambunctious comedy setting, as well as a giant action adventure setting.
Well, there's also okay. Let's do this because we're talking 1970, right? So we're just at like in the Vietnam War era.
Yeah,
right.
right.
And
We're
so
in it.
Vietnam War is like, no, we can't celebrate Vietnam War, but
Right.
World War II we can celebrate.
We can do that. We can still have fun. We can
We
still
can
have fun.
still
with
have
this,
fun
right?
in that time. So
Right.
there's something about that I think is kind of interesting, just to think about how they look at that and what that is and what that means. Because
Right.
My
there's something-
cynicalness, honestly, my cynicalness always felt like the 70s was the cutoff time period where decommissioned tanks could be purchased by
Yes.
the public.
Right.
And so the studios are like, wow, we got
to do
600
patent.
Sherman tanks for 30 grand. Let's do something.
Get George C. Scott on the phone. Let's start shooting.
Well, first of all, this movie is heavily about tanks as well, obviously, right? There's the Shermans versus the Tigers, right?
Yeah, right.
Which is also a big deal. And like, how many Shermans do we have and how many Tigers? And the Tigers were superior tanks and all this
Right.
other stuff. So it was really kind of fascinating, right?
And this is also to bring Clint into the conversation. Like, this is at the height of his like real Hollywood handsome persona. Like, yeah, like he looks great. He's so fun. You know, like he's just a stone cold fox in this movie. He's just amazing. And he's like light fun Clint. You know, he's cool, but it's like fun. It's like fun cool. You know, it's not like
he's
it's
also
not like
part
Dirty
of
Harry.
He's part of an ensemble. At the
Yeah,
same time,
exactly.
right. So
Exactly.
it's not just about him being Dirty Harry or
Right.
about his character he plays on Tightrope, which
Right.
I gave that away. But anyway.
Well, that's all right. That's all right.
But anyway, so that's the thing he does, right? So, but he is like, and he's a soldier, which is a trope that he's done. He's done the cowboy, he's done the soldier, right?
Right.
He does the cowboy, he does the soldier, he does the cop. Those are three things that he does a lot.
And like he had just 2 years earlier been in Where Eagles Dare as Clint Eastwood in a World War II movie. This is his shtick. And then, as you're saying, like 71, he changes everything. He changes the entire. He's like, I'm Dirty Harry or Man with No Name.
I'm a director.
I'm a director. Yeah, exactly. But like, this is the last of old Hollywood Clint you see. This is the last of Bonanza Clint.
Yeah. But it's a cool one, though.
Yeah.
It's a cool one. So it was definitely something I thought, we're celebrating. It's worth a watch. And I got to tell you, if you've never seen this film, you should watch it just for the pyrotechnics. Just like, oh my God. So much stuff going on. And it is a great, besides that, obviously, it's still a classic heist film, which I thought, I was thinking about this with you, Eric, because I know you love your heist.
Love my
things.
heist film.
You love your heist film, and this is this classic. Like, we're going to get the gold. We have to get the gold, right? So it's like there's a goal, and they have to figure it out. They have to go over here. There's a stop, and there's a thing. There's all kinds of things, but they have a goal, and there's a destination, and that kind of situation, I think, is kind of.
Well, it's also this is drawn on heavily for Clooney and Wahlberg in the Iraq War version of this movie. What's it called? It's a really good movie.
Spike Jones film.
Spike Jones, yeah. No, not
Spike Jones film.
It's not Spike Jones' directorial film.
Oh, Kings.
Three Kings.
They're Three Kings. That's what
Three
it
Kings.
is.
Yeah, and so like if you like Three Kings, this is the World War II era. Rawhide Hollywood Clint stuff, and like
it's that era when they have the music in the background.
Little flute. Where Eagles
Eric.
Dare with what's his name from Paper Moon, Ryan
O'Neal.
Jesus, he's so bad in that movie.
Listen, I love him in Paper Moon, and I love him in Barry Lyndon, right? But
we've been talking about doing Paper Moon forever, man.
He is hysterically funny in Paper Moon, and he is perfect for Barry Lyndon. But Ryan O'Neal is not a very, very good actor overall. Like, I'm sorry, Ryan, if you're listening. Most of his movies, like, you're like, oh, brother.
But didn't we actually talk about that? It was like, we think that Kubrick hired him as an actor because he wasn't that good.
Exactly.
Like,
he's out of his depth. In Barry Lyndon, he plays a guy who's out of his depth by being an actor who's out of his depth. I know that's cruel to him. He's had a wonderful career. He's very successful. But I really believe that, when you see him in that movie and he's so thoroughly Ryan O'Neal in this absolutely flawless reproduction of a time period, that's why Kubrick was doing it. I think that's, pretty much what he's doing.
Yeah.
In this movie that you saw, Kelly's
hero?
George Savalas is in it.
George Savalas.
That's the younger brother of
Telly?
Yes. Look at his photo, dude. He totally looks like a member of the Gambino crime family.
I love it.
Hey, talk to Georgie.
Donald Sutherland.
He's our drop guy. He's going down to Atlantic City. He'll deal with it. Talk to
Donald
George
Sutherland
Savalas.
is like the weird hippie character, which is hilarious.
Right. Yep.
Really, really funny.
When I lived in the West Village in New York on 10th and 7th, there was a Greek diner right at my corner of Christopher Street because I overlooked Christopher and 7th.
Oh, you're right in the heart of the gay district.
Mm-hmm. I was next to Stonewall. And
was awesome.
Yeah, but there was a Greek diner, and that was Telly's favorite diner. And there was like a shrine to him on the wall, like Telly. So every time I'd go and get like a tuna fish sandwich, it'd be like the Hall of Telly. They loved him. He's so wonderful.
Did they have a sandwich called the Who Loves You Baby?
Who loves you, baby? He had a crooked finger,
He had a crooked finger.
Yeah.
No.
His finger actually was faced the wrong way. So his thumb actually went out on a right angle. That's why he wears gloves or he's holding a newspaper.
Interesting.
You only see his right hand.
That's wild. I did not know this. Telly Savalas, man.
Telly Savalas. And Len Lester was also in it, who plays Uncle Leo on Seinfeld.
Yeah. Right.
And he is very good because he's the guy who's got a he's got the inventory. He's got to figure out how to get them trucks and all that other crazy
Right.
stuff, right? And what's funny is Don Rickles plays the guy who is doing the math and he fucks up the math. He loses a decimal. It's like it's $1.4 million. It's like, no, my God, it's $14 million.
Yeah, it's like $500 million in those times.
Yeah, it's the crazy amount of money.
Yeah.
And they have to divide it amongst like 50 people,
Right.
like
But-
the whole troop.
Yeah. But it is like I was actually thinking like there are probably more good war heist films than there are actual heist films. Like it's a whole genre unto itself, and it's really, really fun, and it makes it okay to kill lots and lots of Nazis and shit. Like nobody cares. And so you can have like all the spectacularness that you want, and not feel bad.
It's like a heist film. And
Exactly. Basically, it's Inglourious Bastards. Like, he entirely pulls from that stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's all about breaking into doing the theater and blah blah blah. They love that. Like he grabs that sense of joy really, really well, and also questions it. Like it points out like, what the fuck are you laughing at? It's just pretty fun. But like I think that for Eastwood, like for
Top Secret, don't forget about Top Secret.
Top Secret, yes. My cut. He's just a little horse. But with Eastwood and Sutherland being in the same, actually Eastwood, Sutherland, Savalas, and like pick your poison on 40s actors. Don Rickles, like you can see what a weird mishmash the time period was in terms of entertainment, because directly after this it splits up into like Dirty Harry and fucking Robert Altman movies, MASH, like it's like what the fuck is going on, and here
Blue Velvet.
like everything gets really weird, right? Everything gets really
80s.
weird. But it's like these but this one movie holds all those kinds of personalities and styles together. And it's for Clint, it's like Rawhide Clint has his movie bow, and then from this point on he becomes himself. Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is him saying, I was like, I'm glad you guys enjoyed this. I've got
That's
other
been
plans.
fun. Yeah, we
Thank
got
you.
some other deconstructionist shit to do.
Yep. Okay, so let's move on to Eric. Your second pick of a film. What's your second pick of a film? So what was your first pick again?
First pick was
Perfect World.
Perfect World. And what's your second pick?
Second pick was Play Misty for Me.
Oh, there you go.
Well, same time period. That's 74, 73?
Nope, 71.
71, right
71. So
Nice.
a year after Kelly's Heroes.
Yep.
Just to
His
put that
first
in-
film as a director.
there. Yep, that's right.
Okay.
And it is a story about he is up in Carmel, so he basically shot it in his neighborhood. And he is a disc jockey, and he aspires to do more. And so he's trying to apply for a job at a bigger radio station in San Francisco with a broader audience and so forth. And he has a girl that he dates, but they split up or they are going through a tough time, so they're separating a little bit to take a breather. And he hooks up with this woman who basically, it's Basic Instinct. And if you watch Basic Instinct, it's the same movie. They have an affair, one night stand, and then she all of a sudden shows up with food and she starts cooking and hanging out. And he's like, I didn't invite you over. And he starts to push back. Then she starts to push back as well. And then all of a sudden she starts to get very unstable and he can't get rid of her. And it in a nutshell, it's a well directed film. Small cast. He's kind of the head of it. But he really does some really great, you can tell it's also the lighting is not super fantastic on it. It's just enough to get you by.
It's TV.
And
It's TV.
It's TV, yeah. But it works. And he's just holds it together. And it's really, I'm telling you, there's some stuff in there that people have ripped off for the last 30 years.
Oh, sure. Right.
Because it's really Basic Instinct. And she starts, he gets back with the girl who, Donna, what's her name, from Falcon
Donna
Crest.
Mills.
Donna Mills. And he gets back with her. And then she has sublets an apartment. And it turns out she sublets to this girl.
Yeah, right.
And it's so creepy. And it's some bloody scenes. And she really goes after them. And it's literally just like Basic Instinct. I watched it again. I watched it about 5 months ago. You know, I used to watch about every 10 years. I thought it was a very strange film. The underlining was really creepy. I thought the woman, I think she passed recently, who played the actress that he had an affair with and goes crazy, does a great job of being
Jessica
cuckoo.
Walter?
Yeah, and she basically...
She played, also, just to note, she played the mother in Arrested Development.
That's
yes,
right.
Yes, that's right. That's
And
right.
she is so good in that, but she's great as a crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the tone of her voice and her kind of impulses where he's like getting uncomfortable and tries to kick her out. She makes these strange scenes in front of people, but she's very unstable. And he's kind of stuck with this situation because he hooked up with her, and it starts to affect the rest of his life.
Right.
And I'm sure after that movie came out in 71, like condom sales probably went down across the country.
Yeah, it's like, don't get
nobody
involved.
was like, I'm going to have an affair. Even though it was the
Right,
70s, like, I'm not going to do
That's
that.
okay. I saw Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice.
Yeah, it's just because she's completely psycho, and you don't
Right.
pick it up early on
Right.
that how unstable she is, and she
Right.
does a really great job as being unstable.
Yeah.
And considering he directed it, I thought that's his first film directing.
Yeah. And now I think you might agree with me on this, but like he always credits two directors as his major influences.
Don
right?
Siegel.
Don Siegel and
Who's in the film.
Yeah, in Sergio Leone. Like everyone talks about like, you know, his like, oh, you know, he's the Leone guy. I'm like, I don't see a lot of Leone in Eastwood's direction. Like,
you know what you see in is the camera work, the zoom ins.
Yeah, like
For the killing and stuff
it shows
like that.
up. It
The
definitely shows
emphasis,
up.
yeah.
Right. Like when it gets violent, that's where it gets a little bit more design, like a Leone design. But his overall direction is Siegel. Like I think Siegel made a bigger impact on him in terms of how he works with actors and how he builds the tension of a scene than anybody. Because like Siegel is so fucking efficient. Like that guy he was such a pro that there was no like, the only Don Siegelness about a movie was that it was good. You know, and I think that's what really made an impression on him. When he did play Misty, I think he was just like, this is a Siegel. Don's going to be on set, and
Well, he asked him to be because he was nervous, and so he basically asked him to be take a role so that way he can give him help, and he also feel less nervous about directing his first film.
Yeah, it's very like he is not. I think that his whole career is not a big. He doesn't act on the auteur theory. You know, I think he is an auteur, but like I think that he avoided that sense of personal style in his directorial choices and his main film.
I think it's because also he chooses efficiency as a business, so everything is just do it this way, and
yeah, it's good TV, right? That's the source of good TV,
and it's very TV-like, but good.
Yeah, that's not a criticism.
And considering it's his first film, it's very good.
Yeah, and like I think that he's because I've actually been, because I've been reading the Tarantino book, like I've been watching a lot of 70s movies, that cleaning up a bunch of stuff that I hadn't seen, and like they're pretty famous movies that I don't think are as good as Play Misty for me. Like he's a really good director right out of the gate. Like he's such a pro by that point. He's been working. When was the first time he ever showed up in a TV show? Like
I think it was late 50s.
Yeah, you know. So
I'll tell you right now.
He's been.
Here it is. Every Clint Eastwood film, The Revenge of the Creature, 1955.
Yeah. So he has been in the fucking game for his whole life. Every single
Star in
day.
the Dust.
Right. You know, he's turning
Ambush
90,
at
93
Cimarron
next week.
Pass. That's
Yeah.
something I would make up.
Right.
We should note this. Okay, a couple things. This is an Erick podcast idea. And Erick had concerns that Eastwood is old.
Yeah, so he's up there. What are you gonna do? That's the way it is.
And we all agreed that we love who he is and what he does. And we don't necessarily
agree with his political point of view, but we
Right.
agree that we love his as a filmmaker, and we had concerns about that. But he is celebrating a birthday, so it was like we have to do something with Eastwood, and so this became like, let's do as much Eastwood as possible, all in one thing. And I'm not trying to dismiss it and say we shouldn't do 7 episodes, because we will continue to do Eastwood films, and we
There's
already
loads
have
of-
done
right.
several of them. We did Thunderbolt, we did Good Man Yegley, and we've done things like that. But nonetheless, this was a thing. He's 92 right now, and
Yep,
he's going to
93
be,
next
and
week.
he's directing his last film.
His supposedly last film. So that's it.
I don't know any directors directing at 92.
92 is quite high. There are a couple, but it's a pretty limited club. It's hard to even get there, let alone keep directing. But even then, like unlike other contemporaries, like Woody Allen keeps on churning out movies, but there's a steep decline in his
quality.
His
Yes.
quality. Like he's still making semi-interesting movies, but they're pretty lazily produced. They're not very focused, and he's not interested in working particularly hard on stuff, which I understand. I mean, it's up there, but I mean, like Clint is still, even like his last couple of movies, like Cry Macho and stuff, like they're not his best work, but they're not like bad movies. They're pretty good movies,
Right.
And so he's still turning like he's making better movies now than some of his movies that he directed during like the 80s.
Yeah.
So like he's still got it quite well together, and I'm interested to see whatever he does as his curtain call, because I'm sure he's going to he's going to be able to bring in a healthy cast, and they'll give him all the money he needs to do whatever he wants if it's his last picture.
Do we know what the title of that movie is going to be?
It's like Passenger 16. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is. I don't even know what it's about really.
Oh, I know what it is about.
What's it about?
That's very interesting that he's doing that. Because I could be wrong what it's about, but there is a theory that there was another flight during the 9/11.
Really?
Yeah, and there was other people. There's a theory that there was another plane, but because of slowing, taking off, it was backlogged. It took off later. So by the time it was in the air, it was too late. Well, not too late. It wasn't synchronized.
Everything else has already happened.
Happened.
Right.
So that plane was rerouted to Ohio or somewhere else, and then everybody got off.
Interesting. Yeah, he's like that. That's
So this is like there's several people that were ready to do the same thing, and then just
Yeah, let me look it up. There
It'd be
is a
interesting if
theory
that's it.
behind that, and there's actually some. Let me look up Passenger. I could be wrong. What it's called Passenger 16?
something like that. I'm not really sure. I definitely don't know what it's about, but I believe it's
No.
Passenger something. Like what you're describing would fit into his later
Yep.
period interests.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, like Hereafter and all that other stuff they did as well.
Here,
right?
I don't think anyone was picked Hereafter. I really enjoy Hereafter, even though that's an extremely strange movie for him.
It's a very strange film. I was very close to picking it, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's an interesting movie.
And I was honestly like here's the thing, and it had nothing to do with Eastwood. His film is good and everything else, but I was gonna pick it because of the freaking tidal wave scene, which is
Oh, that's
I
right.
think-
Yeah, wow.
I
Forgot about
think
this.
that is peak Scanline. Like
Yeah,
Scanline's
tip
the
top.
best thing that they've ever done with water
Yeah.
was that tidal wave scene.
For which movie?
Hereafter. Yeah.
Yeah, it was called the fifth plane, so I could be wrong. But there is that theory. It's interesting. It does. People say, "Oh, you're crazy." It's not, but there's a lot of supporting evidence, and it wouldn't surprise me.
I certainly like. I think that it's 9/11 is we won't go off on a whole thing, but 9/11 has so completely fallen out of the public consciousness in any meaningful way, and I think it's a testament to how little we did to actually process that, and I think there's going to be. I predict there'll be a wave of movies that try to represent this that will be very interesting, because like there's so much, and because I used to be a 9/11 conspiracist because I was on Manhattan for 9/11, and it was very shocking to be there. I'm no longer a conspiracist. I'm out of the rabbit hole and all that stuff. But I do believe that there's just a lot of stuff that we sort of glazed over in order to pull ourselves together as a nation. There are worthwhile stories still out there to be told, not conspiracy style, but like interesting things that would be very moving. And so like I hope that someone takes on what you're talking about, Eric. That's interesting.
I think there's people who want to have a very specific history told.
Yes. Yeah.
And they don't like the alternative of that history.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. You know, I think that it's like because I think that we tend to like we fall for conspiracy theories because they're super simplified versions of our greatest fears. So they're like comic book versions of real fears. And so I think that there's ways to.
It's also gossip.
Yeah, it's gossip. It's gossip.
Right.
You know,
and I
like
think gossip people like, did you hear this? I heard
Right,
they
yeah,
faked
and-
the moon landing.
Yeah, and well, it's like, and for my own experience, like the reason why I fell down that rabbit hole is because like it's incredibly scary to be in a situation like that, and to have some sense of control over it by thinking that you have secret knowledge, like helps you process it as even being a part of it. And so I totally get where people are coming from when they follow that. They identify with, I need some control in my life, and this gives me a sense of secret control. I get it, but like realistically, it's like we get involved, like this is the politics of the world. Like things are very complex, and they add up to situations which are also complex. And I think that we've never really, we did that we processed Vietnam, the films we made about Vietnam.
We did it in a weird way, like zombie films.
Yep.
Things
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
100%. Or all superhero films, like all Marvel films.
All superhero films came out of 9/11.
9/11.
Yes,
That's 100%
And that's
9/11.
that is our theory, and I think it's a very strong and good theory.
Right.
That we did superhero films because, and here's the irony: Spider-Man was being filmed at that time,
Yeah, that's right.
right? And they were going to have Spider-Man develop a giant web between the two towers to catch the bad guy.
Yeah, right. And they had to reshoot the entire
They had to
thing.
redo the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And that was like, but it was funny because like, oh no, we can't do that. We gotta take it seriously. It's like, and all they did is lean into the whole superhero genre.
Yep.
So
But,
we
like,
took a little bit of a
little
tangent.
turn there. That's okay. But yeah, so like Eric, you were saying.
We were still talking about Misty, which
Misty.
is cool, right?
Right.
And I think the things that I was getting from your pick on that is one is it's very powerful. It's his first directorial thing, right? Also, you went with the idea that you like small films that he makes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like smaller films, and there's more intimacy. There's more, shooting and getting things out and getting your ideas across are a lot easier, and everyone's on the same page if it's a good team, and you can make something very effective without having a huge, Star Wars size,
Right.
crew.
Right.
Which is just, to me, I don't like that. That's,
It can get in the way. It can really get in the way.
it gets in the way,
Yeah.
and then the look suffers.
Right.
So it's, I don't know. I like those smaller gambles, and that's why I think heist films are good because,
They're
everything
focused.
is small about. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's focused,
Yeah.
and it's not like you're going to do a heist film with 30 people singing like the Chicago chorus line or something.
That'd be
know?
something.
Nobody's ever made a musical heist film.
But also,
A
like
musical
this
heist film
movie
would be a really good
would be
idea.
good.
We're going to break in. We're breaking in.
But yeah, he's with Play Misty. Like he's also right out of the gate. Like it's a politically tinged movie, right? like in terms of sexual politics and of the time period. And the movie goes in and out of favor, whether or not it's a sexist movie to have a female villain and that kind of jazz.
Well, hold on a second. He punches her at the end.
Yeah,
and
right.
she violently goes over the edge into, the water cliffs of Carmel.
Right.
So
that's right.
yeah, he punches her.
It's intense, right?
Yeah.
And you see a lot, and there's a lot of stuff like this. Like I just saw The Outfit with Robert Duvall. Like Robert Duvall slaps the shit out of Karen Black in that movie, like really, really, really bad. And the next scene they're just fine, and you're like, okay, I guess that's their relationship. But like, I think that it's good that Clint is, he wants to make audiences uncomfortable from the get-go, and like he is the one who is sort of making the bad choices in Play Misty. He's just paying a very high price for bad choices, but it's an overall upsetting setup for people, and I think that's what he wants to do. He wants to force people to think about the things that they assume are true. And like, because you also see this in Dirty Harry. Like Dirty Harry is thought of as a classic conservative, cops shooting, whoever they want movie. When I rewatched it recently, I was like, everyone that the killer kills in this movie, it's like he kills a woman in the beginning,
goes after a transsexual, two
gay men, a black kid, right? Like everyone, like, so it's designed. The movie's the villain of the movie is killing people that traditionally liberal politics focuses on, as we should care for these people, and it's giving this sort of voice of vengeance via Dirty Harry to the liberal reaction. Like it's saying, like, you guys really feel strongly about this, you should employ me to go kill this crazy man. Right. And so it's so juxtapositional in its politics, as opposed to being simply right wing, which is like later Death Wish. Later Death Wish is 100% Reagan. There's the good guys, there's the bad guys, and that's that. Vigilantism, right? But
right to bear arms and kill anyone I want to.
Yes, exactly. but Dirty Harry is an actually very pointedly in opposed movie within itself, and Don Siegel himself, who directed it, was a straightforward liberal. Like, and he talked about it. It's just like, yeah, I'm making Dirty Harry to sort of like engage with the right wing agenda in a way that I understand. I think that's the kind of politics that Clint comes from. He's not there to make a big statement that he's the good guy and he wins. He's saying, like, let's set this up for maximum tension in the audience within themselves. And Play Misty is 100% a part of that.
Yeah. And it's a great film.
Yeah.
All right.
I highly recommend people watch that film.
It's a good movie.
I think Play Misty is a great pick for our fourth movie. And now we need to move on to our fifth movie. And Daniel, that is your pick. What is your second pick for this?
My second one is a Clint movie that I had never seen, and this is a first time viewing for me. It is a political movie, and it is a movie that was very angrily and poorly received by the liberal establishment, and I rather loved it. I thought it was great, and that movie is Richard Jewell.
Oh yeah, that's a good film.
When did Richard Jewell come out?
It is 2019. So
it's a good film.
It is a really, really good movie, and a very powerful, small-scale movie, with a couple of just killer performances.
The mother is played by
Kathy Bates is incredible in this thing, and unlike say A Perfect World, like it doesn't really have any clunkiness. There's an opportunity for clunkiness that could have gone wrong, but actually still works, and the movie, I thought, was a really...
I haven't seen this movie either. But I really want to see it. Actually.
It's a good film.
It's very, very good. It's very good. The key guy playing Richard Jewell is, I've seen him in one other thing he was very good in, called Blackbird for Apple. And what's really great is, right from the get-go, like, they don't make him a really like secretly likable guy right? Like he's for people that don't know, this is the Olympics bombing in 90
Atlanta.
in Atlanta, right? Where the pipe bombs went off and killed 2 people and injured like 100 people, and the like a security guard, Richard Jewell, had found a backpack with the pipe bombs in it and alerted the cops and got everyone away and got back, but they didn't stop it in time and it exploded and killed a couple of people. And then later on, the press was like, wait a minute, what did Richard Jewell actually place that pipe bomb there so he could stand up as the hero of the day?
Yep.
Right? And they stone cold destroyed his life.
Yes,
like
they did.
they pilloried this guy. He was he went from hero to hideous villain and was cruelly like shredded for months in the news. I remember this very clearly.
Yeah.
And it turns out he was actually a hero. They're completely wrong, and that the press and the FBI, once they had sort of started the machine going towards John Hamm, yeah, he's one of the villains. And once the FBI and the press, because the press is making so much money on selling anti-Richard Jewell stories, that they just kept plowing ahead with it and just like, oh, he's a demon, he's a devil, he's a blah, 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 and reckoning his life, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then it turns out he didn't do it, and they were like, oh, sorry. And you're just like, dudes, what the fuck? And so it's an interesting version of this particular story, which is great. The central guy playing Richard Jewell is very effective because he is not likable. Like, he's a very good actor, but the way he plays him is like exactly who I would expect, who Richard Jewell should seem to be, who's like not that bright.
It's a security guard.
He's a security guard. He's really enthusiastic about proving he's just like a cop. And just like
he wants to be a cop.
He wants to be a cop, and and so he's just constantly saying sort of stupid shit. Like he's a little backwards. He's a little hickish. He's like, he's living with his mom, and he's just
overweight.
He's very overweight. He's a big round guy, and like it's the kind of guy that would just get made fun of relentlessly, and he'd be made fun of not only by people who make fun of him because he's fat or whatever it is, but also it's just like he's the kind of like hick gun toting conservative moron that
you would blame a park bombing on.
It
serves him right.
Exactly. Right. And you get to empathize with him quite deeply through Clint's direction and this guy's performance, but they never make him secretly smart. Or they never play a card like where you just go, if you only knew the real guy, like you really get to know him and you feel bad for him. But it's not like you like to know him, like he's exactly who you judged him to be before the incident, and there's an integrity to that I think really makes the movie work, right? It's also got Sam Rockwell, who's fucking great, and Rockwell sells everything for me. Like Rockwell's always fantastic.
He's a great actor.
But Kathy Bates is the secret weapon. Like they don't use her very much, but when they do, like she plays like doting, kind, over-loving mom, and when you see her break down even just a little bit, like all the emotions the rest of the cast is in building up the whole thing together as an ensemble, she gets to tip it over the edge and really make you feel bad in the end. And it's brilliantly handled. And like Eastwood is like such a master of like the small scale, just like you're saying, Eric, it's like the small scale actor to actor drama is just phenomenal. Like it's just phenomenal. And so like the reason why this movie was hated is because it is the subject, like I hate to sound like a conservative. I'm not a conservative, but like the liberal press shredded this movie. And the thing that they picked on was that John Hamm and Olivia Wilde's characters are fictional characters. Like they are amalgams of like everybody at the FBI who worked to screw over Richard Jewell is represented as John Hamm, right? And she, Olivia Wilde, all the newspapers who were sponging money up off of shredding this dude is represented by Olivia Wilde. And then Olivia Wilde sleeps with John Hamm to get information, right? This is a fictionalized version of a metaphorical version of what really happened. And then movies do this literally all the time. Movies that the liberal press agrees with, so they don't pick on them for this. But because this is a particular subject where the liberal press got a black eye, they're like, we should dismiss this movie because this is fictionalized. And I was just like, you guys are fucking idiots. This movie is brilliant and it's beautiful and it's something that's very relevant to say in a general way that has nothing to do with.
How did it happen? Why does something like this happen?
Right, and it really is about something that I believe very strongly in, which is, Werner Herzog's idea of truth in film versus accountant's truth, right? Mm-hmm. And like movies, like you can. And this is what, now finally I get to pick on the right wing. Like Trump and Trump supporters and all that shit, right? All these people sell that stuff because they cherry pick little bits of fact and then tell whatever story they want out of that.
That's right.
And this is what they did against Richard Jewell on the other side, right? And that is the accountant's truth, where we're just like, look at this fact, look at this fact, look at this fact, look at this fact. And I'm going to add that up in a way that I want to believe and call it my truth, right? Even if it's destructive and even if it's not true, right? And whereas real true things can be fictional, but still be very true. And that's what movies are. Right, like you're saying something that's really real and really applicable to everybody in real ways that make their life better. That's truth, and that's what this movie tries to differentiate between. Because like everybody who destroys Jewel's life is telling a story that's convenient for them to make money, or convenient. Like they're taking his real life and they're making it into their story, and they're taking his real life and they're making it into, I get to keep my job, And so when I was watching this thing, I was like, this movie is really about, if people had really talked about this movie openly, they would have said like, this is an anti-Twitter movie, that this is about how we just railroad people because I don't like that fat fuck, and I want to pin everything I hate about someone onto him, whether or not he's to blame, because it's convenient for me, because I want to believe what I believe. And I'm just gonna draw a giant red circle around this person and feel perfectly fine in shredding them to pieces, even though I don't know them at all, because it supports what I need. And
God, you sound like Chris.
It's it's such
not a negative, Chris. Please.
It's such a brutal trap that we fall into, both on both sides of anything. And it's easy to fall into it because like there's fucking money to be made,
Well, that's the whole point, right? I mean, that's what happened with our media right now, is that making people angry is more profitable than telling them what's truth.
It's just unsustainable, guys. It's
brutal.
No, it is very sustainable. It's not for a long
No,
time.
it's not. No, it's not. The faith in media is going, and it's. I'm telling you, it's, and you'll see it around the election. It's their input. They're killing themselves and their legitimacy by continuing to do what they're doing.
Well, I mean,
look at
certainly
CNN,
right,
and look at even Fox. Fox
is a disaster.
Fox is paying for it by $700+ million, and they're about to get sued again.
Yeah, they are such a giant lie machine. And they didn't get called on for a decade.
We prefer to lie because that's how we keep our viewers.
Yeah, that's it. They've built the story.
But it's
I
interesting.
actually think.
Go ahead, Eric. Go ahead, Eric.
I actually think that court case is gonna. I could be wrong. Well, I just think that court case, that when they lost to Dominion, I think there's something's gonna happen. It's gonna be overturned. Because
I wouldn't believe.
because what has happened is, and I'm not a Tucker Carlson defender, is that he was assured by the attorneys at Fox, because his input really wasn't as big as other executives. And
I believe that to be true.
He
Sure,
handed his phone over, and
Right.
they released all that stuff.
Yeah.
So what's going to
he's a
happen?
convenient-
But hold on, let me finish. Sorry, but because this is my theory. When this went down and he lost his job, I said that was part of the settlement, because there are two companies that
sure.
make voting machines that sued. Dominion and this other one. The other one is coming up, and that's for $3.2 billion. But Dominion got 700. But the thing was, because Fox released the information about Tucker, he's going to sue them, right, Fox, and they're going to have to bring up and expose all the terms with Dominion.
Yeah, and
and the terms with Dominion are that Tucker gets fired.
Right,
My
throw
hand
Tucker
to
under the
God.
bus, yeah.
Which is then comes to, that's why I say, why is Dominion making $700 million and the other company's asking for $3 billion?
Right.
And so I thought that, I've been thinking about this, is because I think Tucker's going to sue Fox.
Right.
Then he can pull into court Dominion people, and they have to release all the records.
Right.
And if Dominion made a pre-deal with Fox to say, we'll reduce your exposure financially, but you fire him, then that can turn the whole fucking thing over.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, there's somebody fucked up.
I
And-
certainly believe, like, it's like, yeah, I have no emotions about Tucker Carlson at all. Like, he looks like a terrible scumbag who lied to people for years and made money on it. But however, I definitely believe that there are worse people than Tucker Carlson who are not paying the price at all.
But the thing is, if Dominion went to them and said, we're going to sue you over this, he was a minor player. Both sides agreed.
Yeah.
He was a minor player.
Like
but
Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah, but
Like
if
number
that was
one.
the deal they made, that we'll fire Tucker
Right.
if you reduce the cost.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Then Dominion's lawsuit, right, about it hurting their company, that's not really true, is it?
Right.
Because
Right.
if it was something about
that
business,
could be
you would get more money.
Right.
And not worry about Tucker. Who cares about him? He's this short guy who is a newscaster or whatever. But the fact that he was no, I'm serious. The fact that
I'm with
he's
you.
included in a lawsuit, that totally ruins Dominion's stance.
Yeah, that's
And
interesting.
and Fox can even come back and say, well, we just lost a lawsuit to Tucker Carlson because it was all released.
Yeah.
And he won. Now
Right.
he's super rich.
I mean-
And then the other thing is that, Chris, I know you want to interrupt. Just give me a second. Is that if Dominion, part of the terms for Dominion's lawsuit was to get rid of Tucker, then that means that their actual losses and how it affect their business, it was not about that,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
So
I can see where you're going from. I can see where you're coming from, because
you get my point.
I get your point. Like,
if
I think
it's about
like,
lost business, then ask for $3 billion and get it, and put
Right.
Fox out of business.
But
no,
this is
we're
like
going to take
the-
$700
this is
million plus get rid of him.
This is switcheroo,
which
yes,
means
switcheroo.
why are you really
Perfectly
suing them?
right.
If
Yeah.
you want a host, some fucking host to lose his job.
Like, I guarantee you, like, there is the backroom
weird. To me, it's weird.
the backroom deals going on in this fucking thing are insane. Because certainly, like, Tucker Carlson, like, we're all happy to jump on Tucker Carlson and say, like, say if we said it, and like, I don't feel bad about that at all. Like, that dude was openly making a business out of lying to people for a decade plus, and if he gets hurt by this, that's something he did to himself.
Dude, he's got so much money.
But he's just built a new business for
He
himself.
comes, from
because-
the, he comes from the chicken business.
yeah,
No,
Isn't
it was the fast food. No, the TV dinner.
yeah,
Tyson.
Tyson.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's already wrote his own ticket. He's going to be a billionaire again. It's fine. So he's fine. Rupert
But he's
Murdoch,
going to
et cetera.
sue Fox and win,
Nobody
and
touches
everything's gonna
those
be-
guys. It's all clean it away. That's the way it is. That's the way it goes.
Well, I think it's interesting is like because, and by the way, I didn't interrupt you, Eric, at all, because I think all of this is relevant to exactly the movie that Daniel is trying to put out there,
exactly.
which is about the media necessarily doing character assassination. Now,
Yeah, and-
it's interesting that you put Tucker Carlson in the firing line of that character assassination, right?
Right.
Because
Well, it's only because, if I can just, I'm not defending
Go ahead,
him,
go ahead.
is that they said, and I listened to a lawyer talk about this. He didn't say what I'm saying, but he was saying that they went to all the hosts. The other guy that I think is the most annoying guy in the world is Hannity.
Oh, God.
And they went to
fucking,
him. Oh, he's the worst, dude.
They're awful. They're awful.
But they went to everybody and said, give us your phones because of the lawsuit.
Right.
They all said, no, I'm seeking out, just quickly, out counsel outside of Fox. Tucker's the only one who said, well, I have counsel here at Fox, so I'll just give him my phone.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So they violated to me, that's why I was like, why? And so he has every right to sue him. They violated his terms of counsel by releasing that.
That's interesting.
But my point is, and then I started thinking, why is Dominion asking for less, but he lost his job after? If he sues him for violation of his terms with the legal team of Fox, which he has every right to do, no matter what you think of him, he's an American,
Right.
that's going to expose records, and Dominion's got to come back and take the stand.
Yeah,
and once they take the stand, it's like, well, what were the terms of the deal? You know, was it?
So, but your point is basically, it's if Dominion if it's revealed that part of the terms was that Tucker Carlson was fired under the terms, then that's a thing. But if that doesn't happen, if it's not there.
No,
because
here's the problem is.
But what's been exposed, sorry, just let me finish my thought. What's been said in the news so far is the reason they fired him is because he's a freaking liability after they saw all the crap on his phone, right? That's what's been said. But you're saying that Dominion said, under the terms, fire Tucker Carlson, and then you don't have to pay the $1.2 billion, you only have to pay $768 billion.
That is right. But he, in good faith, gave it to
gets exposed, then the whole shit goes.
Well, here's what my thought is, that they violated his terms of counsel, internal counsel at Fox, by releasing his phone records, right? Because he didn't go to an outside attorney. He said, "Oh, I'll just go to you guys," right?
Yeah, and
he
there's
trusted
apparently
them.
now a new investigation into how all of this leaked out of Fox as well.
Okay.
Right.
But the point is, so he has every right to sue them. So Fox is going to get sued and settle, but he's going to say goes to court because he has a lot of money. And then that is going to Dominion now has to testify, which then opens up another thing. And then Fox at the end will say, you broke the terms for our thing and our deal to get rid of it. And then all of a sudden, maybe Dominion doesn't get $700 million. My point is that they're not going to get their money because Fox, like idiots, basically screwed over Tucker. All they had to do was fire him.
Right.
But they released his phone records to the public, which was given in counsel.
That's a thing. It leaked. Well, anyway.
Yeah,
Well,
who
no.
knows?
There's a 5-person board at Fox, and the only people, the board members that saw it. So somebody on the board released it.
Here's what I think is going to happen. Billionaires don't pay. That's what's going to happen. It's like all this goes away. They're incredibly rich.
I
and they're all
think
going to be
you have
fine.
excellent points, and it is related to.
It goes back to the point I was saying that I don't think Dominion's going to get their money.
Right. Maybe so. But I do think I do believe that the people that Fox has built a business, right, out of lies and character assassination.
That's right, because Murdoch started as a tabloid guy.
Right. This is it. And then and ultimately what Richard Jewell, the movie, is saying, right, is that we can blame the media for being villains all we want. That's us. We're the ones who want that to be true. The media can't make any money except that we give them money because they're telling us a story that we want to hear, right? And that is the narrative that's the sweet narrative that we want to believe in. And that's what the money is, right? And so
24-hour news just changed because they have to deliver. The news
deliver
used to be a
story.
public service.
Yes,
That's right.
But now it's about
now it's about money.
right. And the thing is what we're addicted to is storytelling.
Yes.
That we imagine that all this stuff and everything we're involved in, all this, there's good guys, there's bad guys, there's blah, blah, blah. None of that is real. That is all 100% bullshit. And we are totally falling for it every day. And we're the ones who pay the price. We are both the media and Richard Jewell. Like, we are destroying ourselves through this process. Yep. Because we cannot have the empathy to believe that maybe this guy is a human as opposed to Porky Pig, you know, and Snidely Whiplash combined.
Or more specifically, like Batman and the Joker. Right?
Batman and the Joker, exactly.
Like,
and
we need a good guy and a bad guy. And that's,
right.
Okay. And like, that's interesting because, you know, coming from Clint Eastwood, that's a really
this is his major theme in almost everything. Is like, he has his point of view. He has his point of view, sure, but he is never interested in bullshitting you. Like, he's always interested in saying, like, this is where I come from, and you'll understand that. But we should always show maximum empathy towards the other side. Maximum empathy. Otherwise, we'll end up in a Richard Jewell situation. You know? And, like, that goes from, you know, Flags of Our Fathers and Iwo Jima to this, where you're just like, this is like, listen, I know we're here to kill the Japanese. That's the job today because we're at war. However, they are people, right? Yep. And if you don't have the ability to see that that's true, then you are going to end up destroying yourself. You know, and I think that's really what the movie ultimately is trying to say. It's just we look at someone like Richard Jewell and we go like, that's a conservative gun nut, fat ass, Fox News watching jerk off, and I want him to be guilty so it fortifies my belief of myself as a good guy. And that's bad. That's a bad guy thing to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And so to have the empathy that he does in making the movie, and to generate that empathy with the actor for the audience, is what made people so angry at the film, because they don't want to, even 2019, you know,
you don't want to give empathy to someone you disagree with.
Yeah, exactly.
And I agree. All right, but we need to get to the next one, and that's speaking of reluctant heroes. I'm going to pick my second film.
Oh, I just want to say Peter Shamu has a really great point. If you want to read that one out loud.
Yeah.
All great points, Eric.
You are very smart.
You are very smart. That's an excellent point.
Did he say that?
Peter. No, it's really because
where? Let me look.
Justin showed up in the chat, and we had to say, like, Peter is one of our biggest supporters here at Martini Giant.
I mean, he has the biggest man crush for Eric. It's amazing.
True. No, I think he's been sending us uncomfortable photographs and postcards for quite some time, but we really appreciate that he's here.
That's the Shamu magic I like.
Yeah, it's
honestly,
true.
Thank you, Peter.
He's really there. He's really there.
Thank you.
He is a very
guys,
large
don't
man.
get jealous.
He's a very large man. Have you seen The Whale? It's a really good one. Shamu, Peter.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's but one and the same. But that's nice. That's very nice. We appreciate all your hard work there, Peter.
Yep.
And you make some excellent. I mean, we all really should reconsider Eric's 2 points. I do. I know after we record a show, I always think back and go like, was Eric right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mr. Shamu always tells us.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's usually outside my window staring with a poster that says Eric was right. But whatever. Yeah. You know, it's okay. He's a nice guy.
Look, thank you, Peter.
Let Eric talk is what I think he usually says.
Let Eric talk. Outside the window, paper pressed against it. Let Eric talk.
And usually that hand
so I have
is
a fan.
with
Don't
blood
get jealous.
On it,
Don't get jealous.
It's a fried chicken grease or something. You can see right through it. It's really good. Peter Shamu. Oh boy.
Okay,
right.
So my second pick is going to be Unforgiven. Obviously,
there we go. The 800-pound gorilla of Clint Eastwood's career.
It is a very, very. So here's the thing, right? Like, it is a Western.
Mm-hmm.
It is a classic Western. It is a
movie.
A classic trope of Westerns that involve a bounty, right? Small town revenge, and just all of this whole movie is very simple tropes.
It's constructed of simple tropes. The setups are simple,
right?
The payouts are complicated.
It is complicated because what also happens in this film is there's a reluctant hero, right? So, and it's just to put it, it's small town Wyoming, right? So Wyoming to this day is very remote.
Beautiful country. Beautiful country out there.
Beautiful country,
Yeah.
but I think only second to Alaska is the least populated state by by square mile, right? So very, very, very remote. There's I believe one state representative and 2 senators, which makes that state, by the way, very powerful politically in a lot of ways. And
Was
I believe-
Cheney from there?
Yes, she is. She was a representative.
Well, no, the father too, right?
The family.
the whole
Dick Cheney.
well, but Liz Cheney was there, and she was recently kicked out because of her anti-Trumpism.
Because she's so normally conservative.
Well, she basically is like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
And what's his name from Utah? Romney.
Romney, yeah.
Romney.
Yeah, Romney's always been the same. I mean, like, Romney's a classic, super rich East Coast intellectual conservative. Yeah, like, that's who he is. Right?
What's the company he started? The hedge fund.
Yeah.
It's huge. You'll know the name of it.
Yeah,
but that's
it's
him.
Mitt Romney and what's
on.
his name? Who's the and
It's you know the name.
Mitt Romney and John Kerry are interchangeable, just different sides of the aisle. Like they're exactly the same kind of person.
All right. I don't want to get into politics about this. I just want to talk about.
Well, what's the name of his company?
We already went through a whole.
Yeah.
What's the name of his
Thanks
company?
for your
Let's
pick,
keep going.
Daniel.
Yeah, I didn't
We're gonna
say
go.
it.
No, it was a good pick. It was an appropriate one because we
right.
need to talk about politics, obviously, with
Clint Eastwood.
Eastwood.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. Him talking to an empty chair was something we didn't even bring up.
That's right. That's right.
But anyway, it is a very, very. The thing that's different about Unforgiven is that if you've never seen Unforgiven and you've heard, oh, it's one of the greatest Westerns, it is actually very unassuming. It is a very small Western.
Yeah, it's a Western.
Yeah.
It's a very small, classic Western.
Yep, very much so.
And there's not, it's not a big thing. It's not Kelly's Heroes, where there's a lot of shit going down. It is a very classic thing. So basic premise is that there is a whorehouse in Wyoming in this small town run by
Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman is the thank you, is the sheriff.
Little
And-
Bill.
Little Bill. And one guy gets very pissed off at one of the prostitutes because she laughs at the fact that he has a small penis
Yes.
and slashes her face, which now makes her less valuable property, but
Yes.
also hurts the crap out of her.
Yeah, also
Yeah, that's
slashes her face.
Slashes her
Right.
face, right?
Right.
But they see her as property, and so the judgment is just give us horses to replace your property with my property, which is kind of a BS thing.
And just
to
because
do.
this is the owner of the brothel, the bar / brothel, right?
Right.
Is this kind of, his name is Skinny, and Skinny is like a skinny guy, and he's a scumbag, right? And the whole thing degenerates into this cost of how is Skinny going to be compensated for the loss of a prostitute, like as opposed to the dude cut up this woman's face, like
Right. But it's a little bit. Also, it's a little McCabe and Mrs. Miller. Remember that the whole scene with that when he's like the prostitute who is clearly feels like she was a reluctant prostitute and
Yes.
feels like she's getting raped,
Yes.
right? Constantly.
right, exactly.
Yeah, it's a little different, but this is just a little, whatever. It's kind of interesting. So this whole process goes on. But anyway, this little town has their own little like circle of justice that goes on around
justice.
Little Bill, which weirdly reminds me, what's that crazy movie Dan Aykroyd with the Justice in
We
New
keep on
Jersey?
bringing this one up. Yeah, it's Nothing But Trouble.
Nothing But Trouble, right?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of Nothing But Trouble.
Sure.
You know what I'm trying to say in this?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah. So that happens.
You've been referencing that a lot.
I know,
We
it comes
have
over
been,
3 times.
I don't know why Nothing But Trouble keeps coming. It's been
That's a
going on
weird
for
movie.
like
That's a
4
weird
months.
movie. Right.
I almost feel like we need to get it out of the way
Right.
and talk about it in an episode or something. Anyway, so there's a bounty. So what happens is the debt's going to be paid through horses, but the prostitutes are not happy about it, and they put out a bounty.
Specifically, there's one prostitute who is extremely angry about this.
Right.
And it is not the prostitute who got her face cut up. Yes, her name is Strawberry Alice. And Strawberry Alice, she has a line that stuck in my brain forever. She says, "We may let those filthy fools ride us like horses, but God damn it, we're not horses." All right? And
They're being paid because they're being paid in horses.
they're being paid in horses, yeah.
Right.
And the prostitutes aren't being paid in horses. They don't get to keep the horses. Skinny gets the horses.
Skinny gets the horses, right? but the guys who did it
One guy did it out of 2 guys,
Right.
And both guys have to bring horses, even though this guy, the second guy, is only the partner of the guy who did it.
right.
So
But they feel bad about what they did.
one of them does, yeah. The one who didn't do it feels very bad that it happened, and the one who did do it could give a shit.
Right.
He's just turning over some horses.
But the other guy is like, he's trying to give this horse specifically to the girl that got slashed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And in one of my favorite moments in any movie, he's trying to give that foot with a horse back, and the girl who got her face cut up, she's healed and whatnot, she's psyched to accept a horse of her very own. And Strawberry Alice comes running out and starts throwing rocks and shit at these guys and drives them away. And the woman who got her face cut up doesn't get the horse.
No.
You're like, wait a minute.
Strawberry Alice does sound like a band from San Francisco in 1968.
That's
Yeah.
right. Strawberry Alice.
Strawberry Alice.
Hey, man.
Straight from Haight-Ashbury, right?
Right.
So, okay, so that's the general thing. So now what you have is this town is run by this funky sheriff who's got
a
massive-
very hardcore, what would be today, a very serious Democrats sheriff, because he believes strongly in gun control. You cannot have guns in Big Whiskey.
right. No, it's not about gun control.
Oh, it's about he takes every single gun.
It's not about gun control the same like Democrats. It's about like I have the guns, you don't have the guns.
Well, yes, but he doesn't allow anybody but him to have the guns. He's just like, there are no guns, there's a firearms ordinance in Big Whiskey. They cast
Right.
Gene Hackman, who's
Big
a
Whiskey.
super famous liberal, liberal as it gets, right? And they
Right.
cast him as Little Bill. And he's just like, there's no firearms in Big Whiskey. All the firearms are controlled by the government, and that government is me. That's how this works.
right.
That's how I keep the peace in Big Whiskey.
Welcome to Big Whiskey.
Yeah. It's like Big Tuna.
Big Tuna. God, that movie's got to come back around. That movie's
We're gonna
incredible.
have to talk about that one.
That's
because
great.
I remember I told you guys when I first saw that movie, I was very angry at that movie.
I know that's
Why?
the best kind of movie.
That's the best kind of movie.
Why?
I was just like, I'm so
It upset
sick
you.
of-
It upset you.
It was annoying. I
Yeah.
didn't like the whole. By the way, we're talking about Wild at Heart.
Mm-hmm.
It was annoying. I didn't like the constant Wizard of Oz references.
Yep.
I thought William Dafoe was really over the top.
Bobby Peru.
Yep.
Like and now I look at that and I was like, it's amazing because of all the constant Wizard of Oz references. William Dafoe
That's
is really
amazing.
over the top. Laura Dern and Nicolas Cage are really crazy.
And that is, I believe, I would say that's the second sexiest movie I've ever seen in my life.
you make me hotter than Georgia asphalt.
Absolutely crazy, man. That is in the set. The other one being Mulholland Drive,
right.
which is also incredibly sexy.
Yeah.
But David Lynch delivers them. He makes steamy, adventurous. He's amazing. The best ever.
All right. So basically, this turns into a bounty film, right? Where they need to kill these people, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, the prostitutes have pooled their money to
Right.
send the word out for any bad guys that want to come collect the money if you kill these motherfuckers who cut up
Right.
Delilah's face.
So several things happen. One ridiculous bounty hunter, English Bob, right?
English Bob.
English Bob
great.
shows up, and he
Richard
is
Harris.
played by Richard Harris, is and followed by who's his biographer, who's been in a
Yes.
million things.
Saul Rubinek plays
Sal Rubinek, who
the
also
writer.
played Donnie on Frasier. He played.
terrific.
He also is in Schitt's Creek. He's very good in Schitt's Creek, and he plays a
Great
bazillion
character actor.
He
yeah.
is a
What is he in
great
Schitt's
character
Creek?
actor. Huh?
What is he in Schitt's Creek?
He is the agent that comes back from Sunrise Bay at the end of the thing, where he tries to like negotiate for her to come back on Sunrise Bay.
Saul
remember now, Eric?
Rubinek. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
Anyway, so basically this whole thing happens, and there's a bounty out on this character. This sets up the like who is going to get them. So it's a little bit of like a reverse High Noon kind of
Yeah. Right.
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 So like they know that a bunch of bounty killers or bounty hunters are coming to this town, and they're going to come to try to get this thing.
It's exactly because like essentially this movie talk about empathy for people you don't like. Like the hero of the movie, in classical terms, the hero of the movie is Gene Hackman. Like he is the good guy sheriff who is trying to stop the villainous assassins from killing these boys.
Right.
But in fact, the hero of the movie is the villain, Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood is the killer, and he is the good guy of the movie.
And he has no stake in this except he needs the money.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Which is the weird part of this whole thing.
Yep. He was married. His wife died. His wife set him on straight and narrow.
Him and Morgan Freeman were partners, right?
Long
and
ago.
they were both bad guys, quote unquote, right?
Yep.
And they gave up their bad life to become, normal people
With
and
women in their lives.
married and had farms, et cetera, right?
Yep.
And then that's what they're doing. And so his wife, Clint Eastwood's wife, died, right? Morgan Freeman's wife is still around. She's a Native American, right?
And it's also implied that so was Clint Eastwood's wife because her name is Antonia Feathers. And so like
interesting.
yeah. And so like they probably were living, like the idea is that their crew was probably living like
On a reservation.
on a reservation and
Hiding.
hiding there, and they took wives, and eventually people forgot about them, and then they just went into farming.
So they basically go into farming, and they do what they do, what happens is this young guy shows up at Clint Eastwood's house,
The Schofield Kid.
the Schofield kid, saying he's out for a bounty and needs a partner to get him on the bounty, right? And he plays a badass. I'm using my air quotes here.
Right.
Plays a badass, but really he's nobody, right?
This kid has heard of Bill Money, Clint Eastwood, as a legendary gunslinger, right? And the kid has grown up on, like, he wanted to be a gunslinger himself because of people like Bill Money and books that he read about people like Bill Money, and all the.
I'm not trying to be a rapper in L.A.
Yeah, exactly. It's like these are the badass dudes, and I want to be just like that. And so I'm.
Reminds you of Three Amigos. The little, with Martin Short's character,
Yes,
the German guy.
so
like,
good.
Little detail, whatever. It's like,
Yeah. Oh my
until I
God.
realized it was fake.
It's fake. Oh, how do you tell it's a mail plane? But yeah, so the kid shows up and he's just like, I hear you're the rootinest, tootinest son of a bitch or whatever it is. But Clint Eastwood is like an old man farmer. like he can barely keep his fucking house together with this couple of kids.
He is a failing farmer.
Failing farmer.
He's
Pigs,
a
the
failing
pigs
farmer.
have the fever.
Everything's
have the
wrong.
fever. He's got 2 kids, and he doesn't know what to do. And he's not a good shot anymore.
Nope.
Nope, he's not. He is not the hero that this person thinks he is.
Right.
He's
And
like an
it's,
old VFX artist.
He's like an old VFX artist.
Oh,
Exactly.
wait, yeah. Where's that shortcut in Maya?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so this new version, I can't. Yeah. Yep.
Can we install Maya 2012 because it was still pretty good back then?
Exactly.
Like Maya 2012 is actually pretty good.
All these bells and whistles just get confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, not too good right now. And but he decides to just literally abandon his kids. Can you imagine saying
they'll
to
take
your
care of
kids?
themselves. They know how to take care of
That's
themselves.
crazy.
They're like
I'll be back
12
in a few
and
weeks.
9, and he's
Yeah.
like, kill a chicken if you need to. Mm-hmm. And then I'll be back in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. I'm your dad, and I'm gonna go assassinate someone.
Like kids probably killing chickens anyway.
We should show this to our kids because
And just let them
you
run
guys have
free.
it easy.
Yeah. You don't have to kill chickens every day. Only every other day. But yeah, like he's just like, well, I'll be back in a couple weeks, and then hopefully I'll get some money.
Yeah.
And
Not going so good.
right. And so he insists on getting Morgan Freeman involved again because he knows he's a shitty
You
shot.
can't do it without Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman goes with him.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna try to get through this whole process real quick. Anyway, goes through the whole process. There is turns out that English Bob is a big old dandy. Can't really do anything. He gets basically beat up by Little Bill, which sets the standard of like, oh no,
Little
this
Bill is a badass.
Little Bill is a badass, and basically like takes this guy who claims to be this big blah 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 blah,
Yeah, this
and
big
throws
talker.
him out, which sets the new standard for his biographer, who's like, I need to. Oh, well, now I'm gonna look at Little Bill because
Right.
I don't care about this guy.
I was following the wrong guy. Little Bill's the real
Bill's
guy.
a good guy, right? And so that starts the whole process. Anyway, so what basically happens at this point is that it turns into this game of what's going to happen.
Right.
Eastwood barely survives through this whole process. He's
Oh,
got
yeah.
the fever. He's got bad
Like
situations.
they're just riding to the town. It rains, and he gets the flu, and he gets so sick he almost dies. Like so, he's like not prepared to do any of this.
no, right? No. And then on top of that, it's just a bit of like just to accelerate through the process. His because we need to get to the next one. His partner Morgan Freeman gets killed by
Little
everyone,
Bill's people,
By
yeah.
Little Bill's people, is displayed in a coffin to caution people to not come into the town. That's like might as well put his head on a spike, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Right.
basically
and
it.
then
yeah.
the young kid who thinks he's the big assassin realized like I am not the big assassin. This is way too much shit for me.
I can't do this. Yeah,
And
I
just
thought I was a
freaking-
badass, and I'm not.
And then he leaves, right? And so then basically Eastwood is like, screw it, and he just tries to kill everyone. And the biographer looks at him and is like, how did you do it? It's like, I got lucky.
Yeah, dude. Like the thing is, like Eastwood is fighting the whole time. Everyone he meets and everyone he talks to is just like, I heard you were a badass when you were young. Herbert, like, oh my god, you're a murderer. He's a killer. He's a killer. And you're seeing none of that.
None
like
of
you're
it.
just like whatever.
None of it.
Right. And you're just like, wait a minute. Is it like is it even true about him? Like,
Right.
yeah, like is this built up story? It's just like Saul Rubinek is selling. Right. And in the end, it comes down to it, like after Ned's killed, after Ned is whipped to death, which
Right.
is particularly cruel.
Yeah,
Right.
because he's black on top of that. Yeah.
Like he's whipped to death. He's like, I am going to murder Little Bill and everyone who supports him. And he goes to the town and shows up in the bar when they're all like gathering a posse to go hunt him down. Like, okay, let's get a posse, go get Clint Eastwood. Door opens up and Clint Eastwood is standing there. Like he's just like, I'm not going to put up your fucking bullshit anymore.
Right.
It's time. Right. And he kills everyone in the bar.
Yeah.
Like he is as good as he said, right? He is also, when he says he's lucky, well, yeah, he's lucky, but he also kills like 5 people in 3 seconds. Like
Right.
he is an actual bad man. And when it comes down to it, like, cause like essentially one of the major themes is drinking, right? And whiskey.
Oh, right. Because
Whiskey
he stopped drinking.
Right, exactly. He stopped drinking. Whiskey equals violence. Whiskey is representative of violence. And when people drink whiskey, violence soon follows in this movie. The town's name is Big Whiskey, so you should expect big violence. Right. And in the end, he is not killed a fucking, like, he's like, he killed one dude. He killed the dude who didn't do it. Right. He takes the shot that wounds the guy who didn't do it, who slowly dies, of bleeding out. And then, like, Eastwood feels gross and bad for having done even that much, right? But once he hears that Ned's dead, he takes a drink, drinks like half a bottle of whiskey, and suddenly it's like fucking spinach with Popeye.
Yeah, it was interesting also because like they also managed to kill the guys who had the bounty on them, and the prostitutes were paying them in sex.
In sex, exactly. Like,
like,
it is. Yeah, it is fucking wild. This movie is. This, I'll be right up front, as you can tell from the fact that I can pull those names right out of my head. Like, this is in the rotation for my favorite film of all time. Like, there is no movie I've spent more time thinking about than Unforgiven. There are movies that are as good.
I think you're absolutely right to do that. What I think is interesting about Unforgiven to me is that it's not a big movie as you think it is. It's actually a very small movie.
Small scale movie. Yeah. And as you said, it's seemingly very simple. All the parts are regular Western tropes.
These are very Western tropes, right? And so as an inspiration, and by the way, this is something Martini Giant feels very strongly about, we believe that Westerns are important.
They are, man. They are the great myth that we have constructed.
Well, I think there's something about it because they literally came out of Hollywood from the very beginning. Like it's like one of the first genres defined in filmmaking in Hollywood.
They've become one of because Westerns are not real. Like, that is not real history at all.
But they started in like pulp magazines and stuff like that.
Right.
Which this celebrates.
Which this couple like.
But what I'm saying is they started. It wasn't like a Hollywood. I'm wondering if because they got the rights cheaper than other things.
Sure, but it's the dime store novels that Saul Rubinek writes that are the basis for the movies that later become Westerns, right? And that's why when I say like Saul, the real villain of this movie is not Clint Eastwood or Gene Hackman. It's Saul Rubinek. Like,
who's trying to sell a different history.
Yeah, he is trying to promote a bullshit story. And there are so many stories in this movie that
he's Fox News.
He's Fox News. Saul Rubinek, this is exactly true. This is exactly the point of the film. It's
getting back to the whole coming on full circle.
This is it, dude. Like, it is the same as Richard Jewell. It is the same. It's just like there's a bullshit story machine that sells bullshit penny books about supervillains, and that is what's pushing our belief system all the time. There's the story of the cut up prostitute starts to be like she is cut in the face and it's bad. Like, that is bad enough all by itself for these guys to go to prison, right? But by the time it reaches Clint Eastwood, the story has evolved into she was cut up beyond belief. She was like, her chest is cut up. She was raped and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's gotten blown out of massive proportion with the energy of the tale. Instead of, like, the truth of it is she was cut up and it's terrible. Like, and she deserves justice. Like, that should be enough. But we get so into the lascivious nature of the story, we can't help but build it up and build it up and build it up. Gene Hackman, like, initially, when English Bob comes to town with Saul Rubinek, English Bob is nothing but bullshit stories. Right? And then the writers,
especially and very anti-American.
And very anti-American, exactly. And so, like, and he tells that great, like, he's like, if screw presidents, like, what you really need is a king or a queen, because people would try to raise their pistols against a queen, and the myth, the story behind that is built up around the queen or the king would protect the queen or the king, because no one can kill the king because they're so terrified of the story of the king. And
Isn't
what
that
happens?
funny? Because that's exactly the same
What?
story that freaking Donald Trump said about himself.
Yes, exactly, right.
He said,
And-
I could kill someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and no one will do anything
Right.
because
Right.
I'm
Did
Donald
he really?
Trump.
Because
Yes.
he absolutely
said
did. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm Donald Trump. People
I'm
like
Donald
there's
Trump.
a
I
story.
there's a
There's story that will protect me. And the thing is, like, that's what happens in the end of Unforgiven.
Yes.
Like, they are so terrified of what Clint Eastwood is as a person, as a myth, that he is the royalty. Right. And they can, and people, like, one guy raises a gun and could totally take him out. And he goes, no way, I'm not doing it. And he puts his gun down. And it's the majesty of that. And what's really brilliant is the counter argument to it is that Clint himself, the whole time, people are like, I heard you did this and I heard you did this. And the kid's like, well, you know, like, didn't you kill like 3 guys with one shot, whatever the hell it is. And then later on, Morgan Freeman's like Morgan Freeman goes, that wasn't 3 guys. It was 4 guys. Like the actual truth about Clint Eastwood is that he's so much worse. Like, he's so much worse than you think he is.
But what's great about it is at the beginning, like, you're like, he's not. He's
not.
He can't even freaking shoot a can from
Right.
20 feet away, right? So
Right.
It's kind of the opposite.
Like-
Anyway, we need to move on to our next film.
That's obviously I can talk about Unforgiven till the end of
You
time.
can talk
That
about
is
Unforgiven for a long time.
That is a true gem. Absolutely see that if you have not seen it.
All right, I actually need to use the restroom, so I'm gonna
Bio
step
break?
out for a quick second. But you guys keep talking.
We're here.
and then I will hold on a second.
Yep, that's what. Yeah, no, like I've spent our Dave 3D guy who joins in the chat from time to time. He and I have spent so much time talking about Unforgiven. Like it must be over the past like 30 years. It must be at least, if you put all of our conversations back to back, it must be 6 straight months of talk. Like, it is one of the most endlessly fascinating films I've ever seen in my life. Like, the moral complexity of that movie is like nothing I've ever seen before. And it's written by the guy who wrote Blade Runner. You know?
Yeah.
So like, this is, you can see that's the, you know, he likes tackling exactly this kind of material where it's like simple setup. Oh, it's just sci-fi. And then by the end of it, you're like, I can't
What?
sleep. Really, 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 really great. But yeah, dude, I'm really, especially in watching a bunch of Clint back to back. Like, I got to say, like, he really is, like, he is the most, he's consistently good like nobody else. Like, there are very few directors who, like, the number of movies that he has made is incredibly high, but they're all extremely watchable, minimum extremely watchable. Like, good material, and the percentage of movies of his that are just good movies is higher than almost any other director I can think of.
Yeah. It's just him.
Yeah,
It's his voice so uniquely.
yeah,
His voice, and doesn't waver.
yep.
Um,
Did you guys just stop talking completely?
Yeah, we just dead
we
air.
were talking about you, but
Yep.
anyway.
But yeah,
Yes.
like, it was just a little a quick note about Clint saying, like, the dude is not just amazingly consistent in his quality. Like, universally, his movies are minimum good. Like, there's no Clint Eastwood movie that I wouldn't watch, right? And there's an amazing consistency to his, for as varied as his subjects are, and the kinds of movies he makes, his messaging is incredibly clear, and the through lines are very straightforward all the time.
Okay. Have we started our 7th film yet?
Whose turn is it?
It's Erick's turn.
Eric's turn. Let's do
It's
it.
your last pick.
My last pick. And my last pick was something we've talked about before. And that is
This one, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot.
Thunderbolt and Lightfoot.
Thunderbolt and Lightfoot.
And it's a film I saw as a child. I love this movie. It makes me love heist films. And, you know, talking about Clint and all the work that he's done tonight on martinigiant.com, the thing is that, like in Unforgiven, he is a character who has this past, but he's trying to he can't get over it. The past always comes back to him. And in Thunderbolt, it's pretty much the same thing, where he did a famous job. The film opens, it's Michael Cimino, and Michael Cimino wrote a film, I think it was Dirty Harry, for Siegel, and he liked Cimino, so he said, write a script, and I'll star it. And they brought in a young Jeff Bridges, and they made it, I think it's 1974, and it's just a small heist film shot in Montana, I believe, and it starts with basically a guy who, Clint Eastwood, he's a preacher, but he's not really a preacher, and he's giving a sermon, and I'm going to go fast.
You're right. There's actually a lot of, now that I think about what you just said, there's a lot with Unforgiven on this.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right, because there's a legend to him. He doesn't want to do anything about it. Here, he's a minister, but he's a lie, but he's a minister. He becomes a
he's
minister.
in hiding, right? So
that's right. But still, he uses the hiding of being a minister.
Right.
And George Kennedy comes in and shoots him. He runs across the field, and at the same time, Jeff Bridges, Lightfoot, is conning a guy to test ride a Camaro, and he steals the car. And they come together like, throw mama from a train, or not, stop my mom will shoot,
right.
Where they end up each other's car, and they end up driving together. And in the same way, he knows about Clint Eastwood. He's like, wait, you're the one that did the big jobs. Here is a young guy who wants to be just like Clint, a legend, and he knows about him.
Yep.
And they're sitting there at this kind of cool little lake, and he's straightening out his shoulder with a belt, and at the lake, and he's enamored. Jeff Bridges is enamored by him. He knows the bank jobs that he's done, and he's asking him in the same way in Unforgiven. He wants to be like him, and teach me. We can do stuff together. We can rob together. Well, at the same time, these group of guys, it's headed by George Kennedy, they try to kill the same guy that shot him when he was a minister, catch up with him, and say, we want the money. And Jeff Bridges is like, what are you talking about? And Clint's like, we did a job together. We took the money. We hid it in a schoolhouse. The schoolhouse essentially disappeared. And everybody died, or it's just me and these guys left. And they think I took the money, but I didn't take the money.
Right.
So then they end up getting together and saying, pardon me, let's do a job together. So they decide to heist a kind of a Brinks armored car facility. They get this cool gun to blast home the
That's a
safe.
giant ass gun.
Yeah. And you follow them. They
Guns
have
of
to get
Navarone
day
gun.
jobs, and they live together, and they fight with each other,
Right.
but they're patient with each other. But it's different generations. George Kennedy does not trust the hippie type Jeff Bridges. Jeff Bridges, there's a sexuality component to this, particularly because
there's a bromance.
Yeah,
Huge
it's-
bromance.
it's a lot of people-
look at the shirt of these guys behind you. They're like, they are happy.
Well, and like there's, and like through the last half of the movie, the last third of the movie, Bridges is dressed, cross-dressed,
right.
and so like
That's right. But that's, Cimino, who eventually he passed away.
Cimino is trans, exactly. So like there's all these, like there's such a beautiful, I agree with Eric. Like this there's very few movies that made me surprise cry like this movie does.
Well,
like,
I'll real quick, because Eric, I want you to keep talking about this film or your love of this film. You don't necessarily have to go through the plot of it as much, because we did cover it in another episode. I just wanted you to talk about your love of it. But I
Oh, wait, you talked to, okay, but go on.
No, because we have talked about the plot of this in a different episode.
we're trying to link to another. We're advertising for a different episode.
I
You can
want to
also watch
advertise.
that
If people
Martini
want to
Giant.
see, listen to our Thunderbolt and Lightfoot episode that we
Right.
did. But I do want to say one thing specifically about Martini Giant, because before we recorded that episode, which was actually pretty early, Eric would constantly bring up Thunderbolt and Lightfoot.
Yeah.
Constantly. as a thing, and all the time it's like, oh, it's like Thunderbolt Landfall, and I never seen the film, right, until I finally watched it for that episode, and I loved it.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
a classic.
It's kind of like The Misfits. It's a very strange
That's a good comparison.
movie.
That's a
That's
good
a great comparison. But I think the thing that surprises me, and not to the ending, is so
Sad.
sad.
Heartbreaking.
As a kid, I remember that, dude. I couldn't stop crying.
And I listen. Sometimes when people say there's a sad movie, I celebrate sad movies. I think they're very important, and I think that I feel better after crying after a sad movie than I do feel happy after a happy movie. I don't feel the cathartic release, and I think that's the important. The cathartic feelings are important, and you only get that from sad films. You don't get them from comedies.
Yep.
And this film has a cathartic release that is up there.
and it sneaks up on you. It sneaks up on you.
You don't even know that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
But like, I think as Eric's pointing out, like there's all this collection of characters from like the hippie to the conservative to the like all this stuff.
This was a clash at that time that was
absolutely.
crazy.
Yeah, and it's also like there's one scene that says so much is that they all have to get day jobs and just bide their time.
Oh my God, with the ice cream
the
truck
old
and
guys
shit?
stay at home, or the old guys work at the ice cream truck, but he goes to work, Jeff Bridges, at a landscaping company, and there's this woman who stands naked in front of a glass door every time he's mowing her lawn. And George Kennedy and the old guys are like, "Did you have sex with her?" He's like, "Nah, I just continued mowing." And it's just like, how could you? What is the matter with you? Are you gay? Right. I mean, these guys are just so angry at him, and it just shows such a cultural difference of like who these people are. And he is just, and he's almost like that guy in what's it called again? In Unforgiven, where he's just enamored by the history of this person and this guy. And it's the same thing. And he's like, there's nothing to it. And in the end, he dies tragically, Jeff Bridges, in a really traumatic. But they find, out of mistake, out of all of this, at the end of the movie, they do a heist, it goes foul, and they're driving and they pass the schoolhouse. He and Jeff Bridges, but Jeff was injured in the heist with his head, and he slowly dies from brain trauma.
Yeah, but over the course of like 20 minutes of the movie, like
you don't even realize what's happening.
Over the course of several days, he's slowly losing his mental faculties.
Yeah.
That's
and
right.
you don't even realize it's happening till the end. It's like, what's happening? Is he okay? And then you realize he's dying.
It's so sad.
It's so sad.
It makes me cry to talk
because
about
it's the slowest death possible, right?
It's
like you know when you go to see those. Eric, I love this movie, and I love the fact that you brought it to me many years ago. But like when you see this guy dying, when you see an opera and you see the woman freaking dying forever, and
forever,
it's like
right,
just
right.
fucking die already. That's not what happens here.
Yeah.
You slowly start to realize, oh shit, he's dying.
Yeah, and the dread is huge.
And then when you start to realize that exact moment, you're like, oh no. And then it happens. So when Eastwood comes to the same realization that you did at that same time, and you start to realize Eastwood's emotion through that process,
kills.
It's beautiful, Eric.
Yeah.
It's a very important
But
film.
those are a lot of his characters are like that, right? He's like the young and the old, the difference between them, and these young kids who are enamored by the old legends.
I have a question for you. Does this make sense if I say this? Jeff Bridges' death in that movie is Vietnam.
Oh wait, what?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think that's what.
Because he does go on to make The Deer Hunter, and
Yes.
he was Cimino was very anti Vietnam.
Yeah, I believe Jeff Bridges' death in that movie is Vietnam, because like as Eric points out, like the collection of people together in this movie is a cross section of American belief systems.
That's right.
And
yeah, dude.
And
so that is at the pinnacle of all of this.
Right. And
stuff.
Jeff Bridges represents youth culture like the
And then the
sexual
irreverence
fluidity
of it.
of
You
youth
were like
culture.
in front of a naked woman and she wanted sex with you and you didn't do anything?
Yeah,
You're like, nah, I just had my apple.
Right.
Like, what is the matter with you?
You know,
Like, they
that-
were so angry at him.
Right, and that Bridges is essentially trans in the end of the film. Like all this sexual fluidity and youth, and like
Also,
the entire idea.
Bridges is clearly in love with Eastwood.
And Bridges
Yeah.
is clearly in love with Eastwood. Like that's
Right.
that's very strongly represented. Like this is he has feelings for Eastwood that Eastwood does not share, but they're honestly represented. Like the director,
but Eastwood is friends with him.
yeah,
He
absolutely.
just calls him kid because he's
Right.
a father figure.
And so,
just
like, the
like,
this
but
is
it's
a
like,
just,
yeah.
it's the same
This
thing.
movie
The father
embraces-
figure, it's the same thing as Perfect World.
Right. Like this movie embraces the idea that America is this cobbled together family of all different kinds of people from like different sexualities and different political positions and all this stuff, but they're gathered together for this common purpose, right? And then there's a division between members of the gang, and because of that, the kid buys it. Like that's the loss of half a generation's worth of innocence in Vietnam. I think that's where Cimino is coming from, because that movie, especially when you watch that back to back with like The Deer Hunter, like that is and actually I'd say if you watch Deer Hunter, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, and Heaven's Gate, all in one day, it feels like that's one movie. Like thematically, that is one whole film, and it's talking about America trying to hold itself together during its final days of belief in itself, and it's incredibly fucking heartbreaking. And like with this movie, with Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, like the fact that it hides this in this bizarro heist film,
Well,
it's incredible. To me.
also, just think about, these are the height of 70s handsomeness.
Oh God, yeah, like
I can only
unreal.
imagine being that handsome, right? Like if
Like-
you look at Jeff Bridges at 1974, Clint
He
Eastwood
is,
1974, they are
that's some handsome men.
so handsome, right?
Yeah, it's like disturbing.
and
Yeah.
and so and it's so I can imagine Cimino at that point was like,
Yeah.
I want those guys,
That's
and I
it.
want to have a camera on them constantly,
Yes,
right?
very much so. Very much so.
And he plays off
It's like
that.
a gay
they-
drifter film. Like
It
almost like
is.
a Warhol.
It really,
Yeah.
it really is. It really is. And I
But
think that
it's-
it's incredibly beautiful.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's,
dude.
and it's
It's
like,
like-
it allows itself to be weird and not just heartfelt but profound in the
And
end.
Private Idaho, if you watch
Yeah.
that again and watch that movie,
Yeah.
and Thunderbolt, there's something to it. But
Oh, without a doubt, dude. Yeah, totally agree.
I think Jeff Bridges the character, it just made me cry always, and I just loved like that
like
film.
you really feel like, and when he dies, you really feel like you lost something.
Oh my God!
It's just phenomenal.
I think what specifically Eastwood's performance on this, like, because Eastwood is hardened, right?
Yeah, right.
He's a hardened character,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, well, we got the money, right, from the schoolhouse, and then he's like, oh shit, he's dying,
Mm-hmm.
and then the guy, Jeff Bridges, like, we won, and
Yeah.
now I can die.
Yeah, exactly. We won, and he's already starting to slur his words.
Yeah.
And you're like, we won, buddy.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, is it okay? So this is I mean,
We really did
this is
something, didn't we?
this is a classic tragedy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to the thing that you wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore this is the moment you can die,
yep.
right?
You got where you wanted to go.
So
And the same with Perfect World.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
okay,
exactly.
so-
Great call.
this is part of my. I watched a whale recently. I don't know anyone in chat who's watched a whale or anyone, but I watched a whale recently, and this was the problem I have. I don't want to spoil the whole thing. I'm going to spoil the whole thing. Frick it, I don't care. But he wants to reconcile with his daughter, who is a horrible person,
Right.
but he is in the middle of dying while he's doing this. And then she suddenly goes, "Oh no, I love my father," as he is dying. And it's like, he's like, "Yay!" And then he dies, leaving her with the trauma of her watching her father die in front of him, just as she reconciled with him, putting all of the burden of his death on her.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And I feel that is, I mean, I think that's the message, really, honestly speaking. It's not a bad message to do. But at the same time, it's like, I felt bad for her for having to deal with all of that bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And so when I see Clint Eastwood in Thunderbolt, like, you know, oh, well, because Clint Eastwood is seasoned, right? But I see him deal with all this stuff, and then he sees this guy dying, and I'm like, I guess he has to manage that as a process, right?
He's left with it.
Because he's left with it. Like, he needs to die just to get rid of that process, too. Like, you know, dying is the greatest escape in a tragedy. It's like the easiest, like, "I'm out, bitches." You know what I mean?
Yeah, take it easy.
and so that's the thing, right? It's like when Hamlet dies and all those other guys die. It's like, "Yeah, I finished, cathartic, goodbye."
Yeah,
and that's just, and then that you leave that burden on everyone else. So it's kind of selfish. Dying is selfish, is what I'm just trying to say.
Yeah, there's like, now you're left with because I mean, like, and certainly with Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, like, it is with the meaning of the film is very much like, look at what we have done. You know, like, this is the outcome of how, like, as America, you know, like, this is what we have done to ourselves. Right. And so you are left with, like, you're left with the wreckage. You know, you're just like this, like, that, like, you feel, you know, in some way happy that Jeff Bridges got to feel that last little bit of happiness, but we are left with it.
So let's go back to that. Sorry, just real quick. So you mentioned that Bridges dying in Thunderbolt in 1974 represents Vietnam, right? So how does that help?
Well, because, like, this is what I'm saying is, like, Vietnam is a Vietnamese tragedy, but, like, in terms of America's soul,
And then
like,
you go back to Iwo Jima on top of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of America's soul, like, we told ourselves a story that ended up destroying the backbone of American belief in itself, and culturally we got 50,000 kids killed. You know, and we created a deep distrust in America of itself that we have not recovered from ever.
No, we haven't.
And that's it. And so being truthful about that, like Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, tells the truth of that, right? And says, look at what we have done, right? And then flags of our fathers and letters reinforce that statement of just like, don't just bullshit yourself. Like, yes, this is not just a story. You know, these are not villains and blah 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 blah. Saul Rubinek is not writing the fucking the Penny Dreadful on this. Like, this is the real world, and these are actual people. And so when Jeff Bridges dies, like, you feel like this is like there's something got lost that we can't ever get back.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that Clint is attracted to that statement.
Yes.
Like, we have to be careful of losing something that's actually important.
All right. So I hate to be the person that's moving forward. We are going to run long on this podcast. My apologies, because we're already about 20 minutes behind, but we do need to move on to the next one. But Eric, I do want to note that I love the fact that not only did you pick this movie for this retrospective, but that you introduced me to me many years ago.
And I think it's an important film. And I still think about it. I still think about how I cry at the ending and how wonderful it is to cry at the ending of that film.
Yeah.
And it's a great film, and it's packed with fun all the way through the whole process. So it's worth the whole thing.
And it also has the worst actress, I find.
Which one is that, Eric?
Melanie Griffith.
Oh
Wait,
gosh,
well,
Melody.
is she in it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's just right. She's one of the prostitutes.
No, she's the blonde waitress girl.
She's the waitress girl. That's right.
Oh, that's right.
Melanie Griffith. I'm glad that Melanie Griffith had a strong career because I really think her daughter is a great actor. And
What was another Melanie Griffith thing that we covered recently?
We did.
We did.
She's like, I am going to.
No, we did
and I'm on a tractor.
A Cherry 2000.
Cherry 2000.
2000,
Yes.
and I'm going to do. Yeah, and so we're going to go in the tunnel. Okay.
Yeah, like Siri has more personality than Melanie Griffith.
Yeah, Melanie Griffith is not the strongest of actors. That's very true.
Her mother was great, though.
Incredible.
Her mother was a great
Skipped a
actor.
generation, and now her daughter is also incredible.
Okay, so we are now going to cover your final pick, Mr. Thrawn.
The final pick. Okay, so this movie. Now again, like I'm not picking like the best, like the most flawless.
No.
movies,
You're
right?
picking a pastiche.
Yes, exactly. But this one is this movie is entirely about. This is the non-political pick, and it's entirely about Clint's greatest strengths on display constantly, and the movie star ability of this guy, both as an actual actor and also understanding what stardom is and what star performances are, and directing those, is my pick because it's British's Madison County. By Clint Eastwood. I don't have the year right in front of me, but this is I would say it's probably 97, yeah, somewhere around that, 96. I bet it's 96. And it stars himself and 95 and Meryl Streep. And this is one of my. It is, I think, for his performance is very good. And it works very well. But it is one of my very favorite Meryl Streep performances. And together, so Clint's doing Clint, and he's doing a good job. But their chemistry is absolutely out of control. Like this might be my favorite romance film ever made. Like when I rewatched this. Like, 'cause this isn't like Titanic, for instance, which I love, obviously, and we've talked about it many times. Now, I love Titanic. I'll go to the mat on Titanic anytime. Now, I cry at the end of Titanic. I don't cry at the end of Titanic because I think it's such a tremendous love story. Like, I think it's a tremendously built action spectacle that tricks you into having an emotional reaction, which is spectacular, right? This movie is 100% the two actors who you watch in the film, and it is what you call a two-hander. It's like, here's two big stars, and it's a slow burn as they develop their relationship over the course of the movie.
Meryl Streep's okay.
Yeah, I guess so. And it is so, like, I started rewatching this, and I started crying 1/3 of the way into the movie because of like how Meryl Streep like was already pulling me in, right? And this movie is so like, I'm actually gonna find it difficult to talk about this movie without crying because it's so brilliantly, such a great old school romance movie, right? And it's also got the same flaw that Perfect World does, because like the framing device of this movie is this is a story that you're reading about after they've both died of old age and whatnot. And Meryl Streep's kids discover that she had an affair with Clint Eastwood, and that in her will she wants to be cremated and tossed from this bridge over so and so river. And they're like, "What's going on? What is this bullshit?" And the son is like, I can't believe my mom cheated on dad, and these actors are so fucking terrible. It's amazing they put it in the movie. Like, they're horrible. The kids are so bad. It's like the movie starts, it just starts with them, and it's like 20 minutes with them. And if you just heard like chalk scraping on a blackboard for 20 minutes before the movie starts, that's exactly what you get with this thing. They're absolutely atrocious in this film, and I can't believe they left it in the movie. It's so bad. It's also such a testament to how good the movie is that I've seen it enough that when I watched it again, the fact that they sucked, I was like, it's kind of sweet that they suck. It's sort of like if there's any purpose to it at all, it's that the flatness and overacting and the ugliness of their situation and the boring way that it's presented are all working as a contrast to the central love story so strongly that when you cut into that, it feels like you've walked into a warm house after, struggling through a blizzard with no shirt. And you're just like, oh my God, finally, real actors. And they're in love with each other. This is amazing. And so, I would say, if you haven't watched this movie, brace yourself, because the fucking wraparound story is gargantuanly horrible. And it comes from a book I haven't read, but it sounds like it's a pretty junky book. But once Clint finally...
junky book.
It sounds pretty junky. And I've already described the plot. It's junky. It's silly. It's handsome photographer dude shows up in middle America, and this lady who's she's got a family, but they're away at the fair for 4 days selling a calf, and he's just gonna have dinner, and who knows, something may happen. That's the fucking story, right? But they take so much lovely time in developing these characters, and more importantly, the Clint Eastwood, who's a massive star, he's already an Academy Award winning director, et cetera, et cetera. He could have fought Meryl Streep for this movie. It could be like a Liz Taylor, Richard Burton movie where they're both trying to outact each other, right? Mm-hmm. And which is why the only Liz Taylor, Richard Burton movie that I like is the one where they fucking hate each other. And they're screaming at each other the whole time.
Cleopatra.
No, that's Cleopatra's a shitty movie because they're pretending to be in love. No, it's with Richard George Siegel and what's her face?
I know what you're talking about.
The black and white one. Yeah, that one. And that's a good movie because it allows them to fucking stab at each other and claw each other apart the way that they actually want to in real life. That said, this movie, Giant star Clint, directing the movie himself, gives the entire movie to Streep in every single shot. Everything. He falls in love with Streep. He lets the camera fall in love with Streep. He doesn't interfere. He plays his part low so he doesn't get in the way. And he spends the entire movie focusing on every little detail of her performance as she is wrestling with what she is doing as a character. And that is so good that even with the shitty wraparound and the terrible acting, all that stuff, this movie is a flawless A+. You cannot get a better old school Hollywood romance character affirmation story than what Streep does here, except that Clint also raises her up, puts the soft light on her, and lets her do her thing. Yeah. And it's phenomenal. The part that I start crying at, I'll let you know, is
don't cry.
I may cry. There's a danger I may cry. Is after they've already spent part of the day together, and she is realizing that she's falling for this guy. They have sort of an awkward end to their first night where they haven't done anything. There's no kissing or anything like this, but they've clearly had a deep connection. And then she gets really upset with herself that she's having feelings for this guy when her husband's a really nice guy, and she's upset. So she fights him a little bit, and it gets awkward, and he's like, well, take it easy. It's good. Thanks very much. And he leaves, and he's going to go photograph bridges tomorrow. Right. And it's so like, and then she wrestles with herself over what her feelings are that made her do that. And she writes a message on a piece of paper and goes to the bridge that she knows he's going to be photographing and pins it there. Totally cornball, hacky, shitbox novel.
And you know what that message said? Drink, talk, drink.
Drink,
no
talk,
joke.
drink.
No joke.
She goes and pins it to the thing.
I thought it said buy Bitcoin.
Buy Bitcoin. Buy Bitcoin. Close up. Like like you watch this. The setup is goofball. It's hacky, bad romance writing. The performance, when she goes up and pins it on the bridge, and her like physical decision making process is so good that I just started crying.
Her physical.
It's incredible. She sells it so perfectly. Like she's so sort of wrung up in herself and deciding to do this and be brave. It's like a short film all to itself, and it blows me away. Like this is one of the best performances that I've seen in any movie ever, and it romances you right out of your shoes. It's unbelievable, and it tells this beautiful love story. They're wonderful together, and you're guaranteed to cry. And then it wraps up with a shitty fucking kid story bow at the end, and you're like, oh, was that movie any good in the first place?
So you're saying the middle is the best part, the beginning and
the
the
it's
end.
the bulk of it. It's it's a 2 hour and 20 minute movie, so you're getting a full movie's worth of brilliance.
I got it.
But it's the bookends or just turn it off as soon as it starts fading back. Just turn it off. Okay. You don't have to see the shit with the kids. But to wrap up with Clint himself, that this dude is such a grown up real artist that he didn't need to be a movie star in this movie star vehicle. Like he's just like, I'm not the fucking star of this movie. Like we're not telling my story. I'm just a dickhead.
I think you're right. I think let's go back to the 24-hour news thing, which has played some things. Like he does not want to be in the spotlight, which is interesting because a lot of stars want to be in the spotlight. He does not. Right. He cares about story. He cares about film. He cares about.
He understands the story. A story is truth.
You don't want to get caught up in that kind of stuff. It just takes away from your craft.
Yes.
I know. And he's so good. He's so good at like, this is not about me. This is about the story.
Yes.
Because he'll act in it if he needs to, but it's not because he wants to be the star.
Yeah. If it gets the money to make the movie, he'll be in it.
Yeah.
Like whatever. And he's he loves playing his characters and doing his thing, and he's a pro. But like you're saying, Eric, he's a pro. Like he's just like he's Don Siegel, man. Like he's not gonna fucking let something be in the movie that shouldn't be in the movie. And in Bridges of Madison County, like him being a superstar romantic hero is not what's important.
I do have a story that I want. Did you guys ever see the Jennifer Lawrence talking about Meryl Streep?
Oh no.
It was actually a great thing. It's like, apparently she was on set and Meryl Streep was in the film that she was working on, whatever. And they kept talking about Meryl Streep as the GOAT.
Oh, the GOAT. Yes, the GOAT.
Right.
Right.
And then Meryl Streep never heard that expression before.
Oh, she thought she's an old goat.
She's an old goat. And so she's like, oh, well, that's me, the old goat. And it's like, yeah, I'm the old goat, whatever. And it's like, no. And then Jennifer Lawrence is like, do you know why we call you that? And she goes, because I'm the old lady. And it's like, no, because goat means the greatest of all time.
Yeah, like it's
and
true,
she had to explain that to Meryl Streep.
So good.
And she's like, wait,
so good.
what? And like Meryl Streep had no concept that this was an expression or whatever it was.
Right.
And to Jennifer Lawrence, it was like kind of this beautiful affirmation. It's like, no, you're considered the greatest actress of Hollywood of all time, right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny. So to put that in perspective,
and also like I'm gonna go one step further, but to bring that all the way around. And this wraps up a little bit of Clint and Meryl Streep and a little Jennifer Lawrence at the same time. Jennifer Lawrence has a new movie coming out called
Yeah.
No Hard Feelings. Okay.
I saw
And-
the trailer.
Right. And so No Hard Feelings. I won't get into that movie, but like the line in the trailer that clicked for me was she bursts into this kid's room. It's a sex farce, right? And it turns out that the kids are just like, on their phone, right? And she just goes, "Does nobody fuck anymore?" Right? And that made me laugh.
No, they don't.
And so to bring that back into Bridges, Madison County, like I was like, when was the last time I saw a movie like Bridges, Madison County? Like where it's just unabashed, pure, unvarnished love story about actually falling in love with someone.
And
I was
attraction.
and attraction and real fuck.
I
man,
don't
it's
know
like-
if I don't know if people have attraction anymore.
Yeah,
with
like,
themselves.
watching Streep become attracted to Clint Eastwood in this movie is so beguiling because she knows it's happening to her,
But
and she's fighting it,
Do
and
you
she's
think?
pissed with
I
herself.
was actually thinking about this. It's like, are we gonna be okay with not having that?
It's like
No.
really great.
Because I think people may not just have sex anymore. They're just gonna be like,
I swear. Like I was like,
yeah.
when's the last time?
no, it's fine. Like let's just let that and AI. We'll just interact with AI, right?
Oh, this is weird.
I mean, we may just be in that zone.
maybe
are in that
maybe
zone.
it saves the planet.
Okay. All right.
Maybe,
all right.
it saves the planet.
Weird transition, but totally appropriate. I'm gonna find it. Let's talk about sex.
Love it. Yeah.
So let's
Man.
do this third movie. The final movie in our is Tightrope,
Tightrope. Yes.
which is
sex problems movie.
all about sex.
Yes. Yes. Sex
Did I
problems
make that
movie.
work? Did I make that transition
Yes,
work?
I think that's perfect. Here we are. We're gonna make it. We're gonna make it.
All right. I mean, when was the last time you guys saw Tightrope?
Well, it's been a while. Been a long time. It's about he has sexual hangups. Yeah.
Oh no, it's funky.
Yeah. Is it weird?
It's a
it's been
funky movie.
probably since the '90s that I saw this.
Yeah, I saw it as a teenager.
But he also in Thunderbolt has the same problem.
It's true. Sure.
He does. You're right. So he does. So he is a cop. He's a homicide cop in New Orleans, right?
Right. Okay. Yes.
That's
yeah. I had
right.
forgotten this entirely. Go ahead.
You guys don't remember this film?
I very vaguely
Was his
remember.
wife in it, the blonde?
His ex-wife. So he's
Sandra.
divorced.
Yes, she passed away, but I've seen that in the
Right.
theater, I think.
Okay.
When was that? 80s?
72, something like that. Oh my god, when did Tightrope?
It's later than that.
So Tightrope is 85.
Yep. I saw it in the theater.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
84. You're right.
84. There we go.
84. So this is kind of funky. This is weird film.
Yeah.
And I saw it when I was a teenager, and I was like, "What did I just watch?" And it took, I kind of was fascinated by that trope. Also, I was at that time living outside the United States, and this is a movie that has sort of a weird eye into New Orleans, which is a very strange part of the United States. So to me, that's something that was funky as well, because New Orleans is, a funky part of Sin City, right?
Yeah,
It's not
right.
Vegas, but it's
Right.
weird. And
Yeah, it's
got
drinky.
voodoo,
Yeah, it's got magic.
It's got magic. It's got
Voodoo.
parades.
Yeah.
It's got Mardi Gras.
It's steamy hot. It's got
steamy hot.
Mickey Rourke making deals with the devil.
Yeah, all this kind of funky stuff, right? And so Clint Eastwood is playing this cop in this strange town, right? And so just to put it, he's a homicide cop that's investigating. We're basically chasing a serial killer. Also another thing, right? So if you look at my picks, it's like we've got the Western guy, we've got the soldier guy, and we've got the cop guy.
Yeah, right.
I was going to pick Dirty Harry, but it almost felt too obvious, so I wanted to pick
Sure.
Tightrope.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I picked, and so he's inspecting a serial killer who likes to kill prostitutes, right? And that's also ties in with
Unforgiven.
Unforgiven, right?
Yeah, right.
And so there is obviously a seedy side to New Orleans. If you guys know anything about New Orleans, obviously New Orleans has a strange past. It's got some French culture, got some American culture, it's got some Caribbean voodoo culture. Everything is all mixed together in a lot of ways. And honestly speaking, like just having rewatched the film, and by the way, you guys haven't seen it recently, right?
Not in 25 years.
Right.
I saw it in the theater, dude.
You're right. So I'd say watch it again because it is it's trippy film.
No, that's awesome. I can't wait.
It was really trippy and kind of awesome to see it again. But basically, what happens is like, it starts off literally like, okay, there's a woman walking down the street. She's not a prostitute, but she's just coming back from a party and she gets killed by this guy. And he gets recognized. The thing that you recognize him from
She's not
is
a prostitute, but she was at a prostitute party.
Well, she might have been. Actually, Eric, I think you might be right. But the way you recognize him is he's got these blue sneakers with yellow shoelaces. And so that's the thing that they use in the camera.
Right.
Look at his feet.
Let you know. Right.
And he poses as a cop to help her get into her apartment because she's scared walking home at night. And then she shows up dead. Right?
You know, it's really interesting. That came out in 84. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
But,
Dan, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can do. Yeah.
That came out in 84. And if you watch the Netflix show documentary on the that killer in LA in the 80s, God, I've lost my mind. There's a Night Stalker.
The Night Stalker.
Richard Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Okay. That is a great doc for anybody to watch. The
Oh,
Night
yeah, I saw
Stalker.
it. It's really good. It's really good.
Now-
What's the one? What's his name? God.
Old
guy-
Man Memory. Welcome back to the Old Man Memory podcast.
Old Man Memory podcast.
What was I going to
No,
say?
the guy who did all the photography of killers. That what am I thinking of? He was also in Day After Tomorrow as one of the actors.
Totally lost. Don't know.
Swedish, and he's got a sister
Yes.
who's also a famous actor.
Yes.
What am I thinking of?
I know what you're talking about, and I'm
Everyone,
gonna
come on,
continue
Jason.
talking.
You know who I'm talking
So-
about.
Can I just finish?
Yes, of course.
You're talking about Tightrope, and they're using the serial killer distinct sneakers. 2 years later from filming that movie in the 80s, Richard Rodriguez was the Night Stalker, and the only way they could track him was through these unique pair of sneakers, which they only made one of.
Right.
Oh, yes.
How strange is that?
That's wild.
100% correct.
And by the way, that documentary is it's really good, and it's the only happy ending, like crowd pleasing ending for a
Yep.
serial killer story you can possibly
It's
have.
so good.
So here's the thing,
And he
right?
lived in a hotel down the street from my old house in LA.
Oh my God.
And I only
It's
found that
fucking
out
nuts.
after moving
Nuts.
here. I was like,
Nuts.
wait a minute.
So Clint Eastwood is a cop in New Orleans who is on a case for a serial killer who kills prostitutes. His wife left him, and he has 2 daughters that he is taking care of. So a single dad in New Orleans,
Right.
right? One of the daughters is his actual real daughter in real life.
Allison Eastwood?
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Okay. He goes to see prostitutes in real life, like when
In the movie. Right.
In the movie,
Yeah. Yeah. This is
Right.
weird. Right.
the serial killer kills the prostitutes that
he
he's
sleeps with.
seen.
That's right.
Right? It gets really seedy. Like it's about him killing himself or
Right.
killing his own vices
Yes.
and dealing with this whole problem. And it's just it's like, no, like, oh, no. I'm here. I'm a family man. I got kids. I'm dealing with the police department. And then suddenly like, but I have
But they
these
do that on a
needs.
Dirty Harry, don't they?
No. It's definitely and
the Dirty Harry, that's crazy serial killer who was shooting all the people, and he was nuts. Didn't he frame? He framed.
It's sudden
I
impact.
haven't
is the
seen
one you're
Dirty
talking
Harry in
about.
a long time. I have
So,
to
yeah,
remember
it's
that.
the Dirty Harry movie you're talking about is Sudden Impact. Sudden Impact with the one with Jim Carrey.
Oh God, old man brain.
What are you gonna do?
Isn't it Death Wish?
Death.
No.
That's
I know what you're talking about, Eric. It's a Dirty Harry movie.
Isn't
It's either the Deadpool or
Deadpool. It's Deadpool.
Yeah, I can't remember it, but I believe it was the one with Jim Carrey. Whatever the one with Jim Carrey is the one you're talking about. I think, because Jim Carrey is the one of the people that gets killed.
Okay.
I think. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Anyway, so he basically goes on this path where he's chasing the serial killers, and the serial killer keeps following the prostitutes that he's investigating prostitutes to get more information, and ends up getting mixed up with them, and then they end up getting killed by the serial killer.
Right.
At the same, so it's just kind of like, what the heck is going on? And so every time he sees these prostitutes, it's like, oh, look, like I digged up part of your web history,
Your evil past.
your
Yes.
evil past, right? And so it's just this thing, and then it gets very, very trippy. I highly like, you guys should watch this as like,
I got to catch up with this one. Yeah.
To me, it's a very strange thing because it's kind of this weird situation. And also he's trying to start a relationship with someone who is preventing very anti-male, right? Very chauvinist. So she's like, how to attack a man who is trying to rape you. Like, you remember those classes, right?
Of course.
And so she's like, and so he's like, oh, I'm not going to be threatened by you. And he's like, but he's trying to date her. And then all of this other weird stuff is happening. And then obviously, the serial killer, basically the whole point is serial killer knows everything about him. And he's like, oh shit. And then he has 2 daughters that are young.
Right. Yeah, it's great.
And then him trying to realize, like, oh no, my entire vice is now going to enter the world of these young girls through a serial killer that is going to kill them, and it's all my fault.
Nice.
And then suddenly, like, and then it gets kind of trippy. There's a few trippy scenes that were not quite in the level of Easy Rider, but New Orleans trippiness that happens in there, and quite amazing film.
I love this. Yeah. Okay. I'm definitely gonna check. I'm sure that I saw this on VHS in the 90s.
Yeah,
That's the best I can do, but I don't remember any part of what you're describing.
because
so I'm excited.
it's very interesting, and the scenes. Now I'm going to tell you, like, this is 84 is what you said, Eric, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of raunchiness and sex in this.
sleaziness.
And on purpose,
Yeah.
right?
No.
Which is kind of awesome in itself. And Richard Tuggle was the director, but Clint Eastwood kind of pretty much directed it as well.
I imagine that's true because I was just looking that up myself. It looks like old Dickie Tuggle only directed one other thing.
Yeah, because
Dick
it's
Tuggle
pretty
you're
much
talking
like, if you look at it, it's very much attributed to Eastwood directing this.
Yeah, I figured that might be the case. Yeah, I'm
The
sure that
old
you don't.
Tuggle magic.
The Dick Tuggle
It is.
magic.
It's got a weird. I think I remember, like, my affinity for this, and I'm glad I watched it again because it has a little bit of The Tenant to it. When
Yeah,
you
I
start
love it.
getting,
Oh my god, yeah. Have we done the
we haven't
yet?
done The Tenant yet.
We
No,
gotta
that's
do
one of
that.
my
That
favorite
comes
horror
up all
films
the
of all time.
That's a great film. That's a
Yeah.
great film. And also, by the way, before I forget it, I want to pitch with The Tenant. I just rewatched The Ghost Writer, which is also Polanski with Ewan McGregor, and that movie's fucking great. Have you seen The Ghost Rider? The Ghost Rider is great. It's great. Maybe even 2004, 3. I'm not sure. It is Ewan McGregor, super fun, weird little mystery movie, and I really, really enjoyed it. I saw it in the theaters, and it's hang on, I'll look up the year real quick. Ghost Rider. Oh, it's 2010. Actually, it's actually pretty recent. And it's got Pierce Brosnan, Olivia Williams, Ewan McGregor, Kim Cattrall, Tom Wilkinson, Eli Wallach. It's a good one. Let's double feature that. I just don't want to put a pin in that. It's good.
Okay. But like, I'm gonna ask you guys to watch Tightrope, because I watched it again.
I'll do it. Yeah.
It's a freaky movie.
Yeah, man, I love it. I love weird.
And it's got a lot of sex in it, which is kind of funky and weird, like, you know, and just sleazy. And then just
Bring it on.
seeing Clint Eastwood, who's like tough guy cop, but suddenly like girl presents, yeah, but you want this, and then suddenly like he just gives in.
Yeah, it's weird.
You know what I mean?
So it's
Like,
so off-brand.
So as opposed to, you know, like you were saying, Eric, when he just walks away from the window, he doesn't walk away from the window.
right.
He walks away
This is
from
great.
but he doesn't, not only does he not walk away from the window, he doesn't walk away from the window as a father of two young girls.
It's bad news. It's such a weird, like, that's a weird tonal choice for Clint's career.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that is not his normal thing. Cause like,
And he does it with his own daughter as one of the stars, who is one of the ones who gets very threatened in this situation.
That's strange.
His own villainous
His daughter plays
urges.
a prostitute he visits?
No. His daughter plays his daughter.
She's just in the movie.
She's just in the movie,
I thought it
she
was a
is
prostitute
threatened
he
by the serial
visits.
killer.
That's the odd thing about the movie. He's doing a scene with a prostitute whose actual real life is daughter. I was like,
No.
what?
No.
I mean,
no,
but
she
it's-
plays
that is totally
like a
off.
14-year-old girl, and she is a 14-year-old girl. It's a very strange, but you know what's interesting? My dad and I have been sort of trying to talk about things that we enjoy watching together, and he's trying to turn me on to certain things, and vice versa. So I turned him on to Barry, and so he's starting to watch Barry, and he's very
Nice.
excited about that.
Yes.
And then he turned me on to Bosch. Have you heard? Have you
I
saw-
have
Yes.
seen all Bosch. I love Bosch. I've read
Right.
those
Yeah.
books. I've read those books
Right.
and I've watched the show. It's great.
So this has a little bit of Bosch to
Oh
it,
yeah, I love it. I'm in 100%. 100%.
because it's
100%.
you know, prostitutes and weird seediness and crazy
Yeah.
stuff like that. But there's some trippiness to it that's just a little bit.
I'm in, dude. I mean, because I love, I like, yes, well, clearly, but I mean, I love 80s sleaze is a particular nice flavor. It's a fun flavor, and I love like there's a great moment in an actor's careers when they're like, I have an established character that I usually play. Let's go this way. Let's go and do the weird thing, and then they never return to that. Like Eastwood's just like straight now. What if I made a weird kind of porn movie and my daughter played my actual daughter in it, and it's sleazy, and you're like, what? What's that?
No. I would. And that's exactly right. But and listen, I saw this movie like kind of before I knew who Eastwood was, right? Or I've seen Eastwood. And I saw The Good and Bad, the Ugly, I saw Dirty Harry, but I didn't really care about filmmaking or whatever. It's like, oh, this is just a movie about Clint Eastwood as a cop in a town called New Orleans, which I've heard the name, but I don't really know, because I lived in Europe at the time. I never actually
it's a
lived in the
mythical
United
place,
States. So it was like just this weird, you know, mythical town called New Orleans, and was weird. And so somehow it got ingrained in me. So when Eric said, let's do a Clint Eastwood podcast, like somehow that came up, like, I want to do Tightrope, and I was like, immediately came up to the top, and it's like, and it's funny because you guys haven't seen this in a long time. I
don't remember it at all. I know that I've seen it.
gonna watch
I was
it.
a big Clint fan.
It's on Max?
I have been.
I rented it, I think. You know, Take
yeah,
the
it's like-
$3, $4, whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and I can see products related to this item include where is it? Internal Affairs with Andy Garcia.
Oh, yeah.
Right, good
Yeah.
steamy cop, villainous cop movie. And where'd it go? I was just looking at it. Sea of Love with Pacino.
I love that.
Sea of Love is fucking awesome. That's another one of those movies where you're like so Pacino off-brand.
Yeah.
Where you're like,
John Goodman,
what?
too.
Oh, it's a good one. That's a really good one. That's fun.
Yeah, just watch Tyro.
Do
Just watch
it,
Tyro, and
do it,
it's
for sure.
very classic in a lot of ways. There's nothing, but there's. I'll just put it. When you start the third act, you're like, "What the?" It just gets really, and he's so good in it.
Yeah, that
He's
sounds
so
great.
good. And then
I love it.
the girl with the lollipop. All I gotta say is the girl with the lollipop
I love it. I love this. I love this plan.
getting a tattoo and a lollipop.
Perfect. Perfect.
Just so seedy and weird and funky.
That'll be our
And
next.
she and the girls are really good in it. The two young girls, and his daughter is fabulous.
No, that's awesome.
And
Creepy, but awesome.
And she's so young in it too,
Yeah.
too, right? She's very young, and she's really good because they're struggling, and as kids with divorced parents. But I was impressed. With their performances. Anyway, good. Watch it.
That's a
All
great
I can
one. That
say
sounds great.
Is an endorsement for that film. Just watch
Nice.
Tyro because it's funky and weird.
I love it. I love how weird and sort of Euro it sounds.
Yeah.
Sounds like a European director came in and was like, Clint, let's do something really offbeat.
Yeah.
Get your daughter. It's a strange sex film. Let's go.
We're going to do it in New Orleans. We want them to dress up in costume and walk down Bourbon Street.
Exactly.
They might be abducted by a strange clown.
Have you seen Angel Heart? It's like that with more cops. Yeah, it's going to be perfect.
Very disturbing.
That sounds
It's
awesome.
very hard to watch.
I love it. I
I
mean,
loved it.
well, happy birthday, Clint Eastwood. That's what I got to say.
Happy birthday, Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was we wanted to make sure we got this one in before he finished his last film
Yep.
and to celebrate his 93rd birthday, which technically speaking is a week away. And I
It
don't
will
want
have passed by the
to
time you
My
hear this.
father's this August.
Oh, nice.
Oh, his same 93 as well.
Yep. Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. Yeah. It is what it is. What's her name?
Rebecca
White,
DeMarnay.
something White. Golden Girls.
Betty White.
Betty White. Like they had a whole celebration for her 100th birthday, and she died right before.
Oh, it's so sad.
Do you remember
she
that?
almost made it. She almost made it. Betty White, man. She was great.
That's right.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was great. Betty White. Abe Vigoda was close too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. My neighbor, 2 houses down, she died at 104.
Nice. Wow.
And she bought that house when it was first built in 1954 or whatever.
Jeez.
That's crazy.
Think about that. Buying a house in Burbank in 1954 or whatever
Yeah.
it was,
For
and there was like
50
no other
cents.
houses around, and she
Yeah,
owned that
still
house the whole time. And then she's like, "Oh yeah, my granddaughter's going to take me out to lunch," and then find out her granddaughter is like 65.
It's wild, dude.
Wow.
Just think about that.
That's
104, dude.
Yeah, Grace was an amazing person, and so she passed away. But she was scary. She did yoga every day still, when she was 100.
It works.
Yep.
That works. Yep.
Indeed.
Well, nice work, guys. That was good stuff.
That was
Great
good stuff. And Clint Eastwood is definitely someone that needs to be celebrated, and we appreciate
Absolutely.
the
A total
suggestion.
hero.
This was a total Eric suggestion, and I absolutely loved getting into these films. So
Yeah, some
thank
great
you,
ones.
Eric.
That
Thanks.
was
no
good stuff,
worries,
man.
my friends.
Yeah,
That was a good one.
That was a lovely one. And
was a good
and no, of course, we will have upcoming the Martini Giant tribute to sexiest movies ever, top lining Wild at Heart. Wild at Heart deserves its own episode.
Yeah. Wild at Heart. And what was the other one you said?
Mulholland Drive, yeah.
No. What was it? Oh, shit. Yeah, Wild at Heart, definitely. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we need to do Wild at Heart at some point.
That's a good one. It's a good one. Man.
All right.
Laura Dern,
Laura Dern.
good actor.
Yeah. You make me harder than Georgia asphalt. All right. You guys ready for this?
Let's do it.
Ready.
All right, drink.
Talk.
Drink.